Okay, so I am now live on Instagram for a watch along of the National Theatre Live production of Coriolanus. And I am going to start by inviting Erin Murphy, who was the stage manager of the production, just to come in and the test. Aha!
Hi!
Look at you. Okay, so we need to immediately talk about those houseplants. Oh my God, someone's donated £4. This is amazing.
That's
Thank
pretty
you
good.
very much, Amanda. That's so good. I'm going to say that's because your houseplants are such quality.
They're pretty good, aren't they? I'm really proud. I mean, I've had plenty of time to look after them, so that's been good.
Yeah, and your hair's looking good. Good lockdown hair.
I did do a little bit of tonguing. Don't look at the back. The front.
Okay, I won't look at the back. I basically got a mullet. Look.
I love it.
Yeah, I've learned how to cut the front. I was in the middle when we were just on the phone of worrying about why I can't find YouTube on my smart television when I could yesterday. So I've clearly done something really bad. So I think what I'm going to do while I'm on with you is set it up on my laptop. So I've got it. So Erin,
Yeah.
you were the stage manager of Coriolanus. Can you explain to people what that involved?
I was the deputy stage manager. So at the John Marr, you have a team of three people:
Hmm.
the stage manager, the deputy stage manager, and the stage manager. So I was the deputy stage manager. That means that I am in rehearsals the entire time with the company and the directors, and my job is to ensure the easy and excellent and high quality communication between the rehearsal room and the team that's working on that. So that's the producers, the lighting designer, the sound designer, the set, the stage management, everybody. So everybody knows what's going on at all times, because not everyone can be in the rehearsal room at the same time, obviously. And
And
then,
you tell people when to come on stage, go off stage.
yeah,
So
so
I
what's
just posted to Instagram you giving the 15-minute call.
that's right.
Um, what does that mean?
So the 15-minute call is actually, it means 15 minutes until beginners. And beginners is when you have to start getting ready to go on stage, which ideally will be at whatever time the show starts, as it's billed on the on the show.
Hmm.
So I would say, ladies and gentlemen, this is your call shower call. You have 15 minutes, please. 15 minutes, and that's normally at like 10 past 7 for a half 7 show. So
Hmm.
well, I'm late. The call's late.
I'm already overwhelmed that we've raised like over £200 already. I'm going wave, 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 wave at everybody. I'm new to Instagram Live, everyone. I had a practice yesterday with the amazing playwright James Graham, who's this house was part of the NT Lives. But this is my first go, so if I get it wrong technically, you must say. Okay, cool. So what's your, just while we get ready for Tom to come on and start chatting to people, what's your most vivid memory of being in the rehearsal room or in the theatre for Coriolanus?
The fight, I think, is the longest standing memory. We rehearsed that in intricate detail. Like, Tom was such a perfectionist about it, and he and Hadley were just so professional and so brilliant in the way that they looked forensically at every part of the fight. And then on stage, it was really electric every night, not least because sometimes the sword would break, and we would
Sometimes the sword would break. One evening the sword broke. I'm going to get that story out of Tom later. Yeah, the sword broke.
like 3 times. I'd have to look back, but I think 3 times.
Yeah.
Mid
Yeah. Nobody was hurt, but I did see it happen once, and it did a sort of, in your director's brain, it does a slow motion thing where it goes through midair. That was a thing. That was a thing.
It's a scary thing. It's a really scary thing. Not least because, especially in the Donmar, the audience is what, 2 feet away from you. You know.
Yeah. 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 That's a good thing for people to remember, actually, as they watch this evening. The Don Mar only seats 251 people, 20 standing. And that means nobody goes back any further than 4 rows. So one of the experiences of watching a National Theatre live when it comes from the Don Mar, actually, you're pretty much in the same relationship as the audience is. Speaking as someone who has, since I directed this production, directed a couple of movies, the theatre's so small, you can't get a wide. So the camera can't come far back enough, or the cameras we use, to be able to take in the whole stage. That's how close you are.
On this one, we had a crane, didn't we? It was one of the first times that they used a crane that dropped in, or
They
like.
did use, was that this one? Yeah, what they definitely did when you watch the fight scene between Tom and Hadley is the cameraman, we persuaded him to jump on stage and kind of get really in there and shoot it. So that was very, very cool. Ah.
Oh, it's such a nice thing to remember. It was the second show that I'd done with you, and this with Sally and Sunita, the other stage managers, and Hadley.
Yeah, who will come on later to say hi.
Oh, Hadley.
Yeah, I know. And just a quick thing, Erin, I thought was really good to say. I know that our theatres are locked down at the moment, but I just think your story is really interesting for anyone who's watching, who's thinking about a career in theatre, because you moved from being a stage manager to working in the producing side of theatre, didn't you?
I did. About 5 years ago, I decided that for me, it was stage management is a very hands-on role, and it's very intimate, and there's very, very different responsibilities between the three. I mean, there's more than three roles in stage management, but particularly in sort of small repertory London theatre, there's three roles.
Yeah.
And for me, my skill set wasn't about moving up to stage manager. So fortunately, I was able to talk to someone I knew very well who gave me an opportunity to come and work with them. And so I worked in the producing office as just assistant for 5 years.
Probably felt like 5 years. Probably wasn't that. It was probably like 2 years, but it just felt that long.
And then we did the film, and we went to Broadway, and yeah, it's just been an amazing opportunity for me.
Yeah.
It's quite difficult for stage managers to get out because we have so many diverse skills and transferable skills, but it doesn't necessarily relate exactly to something else within the theatre landscape. So
yeah,
I'm so lucky.
There you go. So even though our theatres are closed at the moment, it's still a great place for careers when they reopen. I don't want people who are starting out or graduating to be discouraged.
Yes, exactly. Sunita will say the same later. I think you're going to talk to her, but we're really interested in seeing more diversity come into stage management. So if you have any questions, feel free to shoot her a question, and we can talk to you as much as possible.
They can message you on Instagram.
Exactly.
But mainly with questions about serious careers in the theatre, not with questions about flying swords.
Well, I mean...
Well, don't know. Very good. All right, Erin, I'm going to see if I can find Tom Hiddleston. Lots of love. Great to see you. Take care. Bye.
Off.
Okay, so Erin's popping off now. I am enormously touched by people who have donated already. Thank you so much for that. That is so brilliant. Really amazing. I'm trying to see if I can, there we go. Let's see if I can find Tom on here. I think, well, my mother's watching, so that's good. I'm going to send him a request. I think that's how I do this. Sorry, this is a bit slow. So request. Okay, I'm going to try that one more time. Let's see if you're there, Tom. If not, I'll call. So, Tom Hiddleston, if you are there, I think that this is being a bit slow and you should maybe request to join. In fact, so let's see. Yeah, okay. Apologies, everyone. Bear with us. Okay. No, can't see it. No. Okay. I think probably I'm just going to drop Tom a quick email because my laptop is open. Let's see. Can you ask to join Instagram Live? Okay, so I'm going to keep trying, and in the meantime, yeah, no, he's not there. Tom is actually here. He will be here shortly. I think this is my total incompetence at Instagram. So I think what I'm doing, and anyone tweet me if they think I'm doing this totally wrong, but I'm going into my requests. Oh, there he is. There you are. I can see how I'm gone. Here we go. waiting for Tom Hiddleston. People kind of are. Ha! There you go.
Hey.
Brilliant. That was an aching pause of me being technically incompetent, for which I
Okay.
apologize to everyone. How are you doing?
I'm okay. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I'm excited about watching Coriolanus. I've not seen it for a while. I nearly rewatched it, and then I was like, do you know what? I'm just gonna wait and experience it live with you.
Here we are. Listen, here we are on on Instagram Live. I've never done this before. What? Whoops. But this is rookie stuff going on here. Trying to move the phone, move the camera.
Yeah, mine is balanced on so many books.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Well, Joe's.
Yeah. Tom, I'm here to tell you, look at this. Can you see this? People have already donated nearly £900. How cool is that?
I can see it. I can see at the bottom it says over £1,100 already.
Oh,
no,
wow.
$1,100.
$1,100 because you're in America. Yeah. And I just posted on Twitter before, and I think we sort of both wanted to say this, that we're here to keep you company while you watch this. I'm very aware that some of you might have watched this before, so it's fun to watch along with us. At any point, feel free to mute us or even drop out of Instagram Live. We will not be offended if the sound of me and Tom going, oh, wow, remember that bit, is distracting from your enjoyment of what is ultimately Shakespeare's Coriolanus, not ours. So I think that's the thing to say. And the other thing is we are insanely grateful for your donations, as is National Theatre, the Donmar Warehouse, and theatre in Britain. There are a lot of fantastic causes at the moment where if you've got spare money, you can give it to. So you are not obliged to give it to us. We're really grateful, but also we know that there are a lot of places your money can go right now, and it's fine if it goes there, not to us. Is that fair, Tom?
Indeed. I 100% agree. Yes.
Good.
And this, I think what the National Theatre has done with these screenings, with National Theatre at Home, is a way of keeping theatre going during lockdown, and is a very generous invitation to those who love and cherish the theatre to keep it alive, because we need to, in order for it to make it out the other side. So that's why we're here.
Yeah. And I think we're also here just to celebrate you, because you are so amazing in this amazing company and this ensemble. Yeah, come on. Well, I am anyway. I'm so we record a little post-show thing that the National Theatre will put up on YouTube, and actually, like many of Shakespeare's plays, this is one that cautions you against pride and hubris, but I have pride to an almost hubris level of the work that we did on this show in this very small, very special theatre. So it will be cool to see everyone on screen again.
It's an extraordinary play. Thinking about it, and the idea that it was written 400 odd years ago, and its long reach and its resonance is staggering. But to be expected with William Shakespeare, the greatest playwright ever, arguably.
Yeah. Most people, I think, would argue that. And just the sheer volume of output, frankly, as much as anything else. All those amazing plays with such an infinite range. And, one of the reasons I really wanted to do Coriolanus with you is that often actors tackle other big Shakespearean roles ahead of this one. So they might go, I'm going to do Hamlet first, or I'm going to give a Romeo. And actually, it tends to be that people come and play Coriolanus a little bit later in their careers. Whereas actually, I think something that's really clear from this production is that he is an athlete, and he's the most effective and physically courageous soldier that this version of Rome has. And there was something thrilling about the athleticism of what you did and what the whole company did, because it's also a really chewy play and it's a long play. I mean, I should think by now, and you'll be very grateful that Rob Hasty and I cut probably about an hour from it. But it was physically very punishing. Like, we're about to see you go through a big old adventure, physically and intellectually, I think.
Yes, it was a big challenge, and I enjoyed it. It's, you know, in fact, well, I don't know, but I've got YouTube open at the same time, so like they watch along.
It says premiere will begin shortly on mine. Has everyone got YouTube open?
Right, yeah, that's right. Well, should we try and introduce it? How do we try and is that what,
yeah, God, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. How you going to do that?
So I do a bit and then you do a bit.
Okay.
Okay, as if like you're sitting in a theatre and we can do the program notes if anyone's interested in the program notes. Perhaps they're not. I apologise unreservedly if you're not interested in program notes before a show, because I'm about to give them, or my version of them. So this is where you can turn the sound off if you don't want to hear my introduction. Coriolanus is a play ostensibly about a soldier in ancient Rome. And he is...
Is that Bobby?
He is Rome's most courageous soldier. He is Rome's most fearsome defender. This is not the Rome of we've got 2 minutes, okay?
Yeah.
This is not the Rome of Julius Caesar or Antony and Cleopatra or the later Roman Empire or many of the ideas of Rome that we have in our culture now. This is a very early city-state in the center of Italy that is under threat from other city-states that surround it. And it is, as a democracy, it is still being born. And there is such a thing as a Senate, which is a governing body who make decisions and pass laws, and there is a marketplace, a forum, I suppose, and the people. And Coriolanus, through extraordinary military courage and personal bravery, is then persuaded to stand for high office and uses that misuses or abuses that high office with the clarity of thought that he uses. A soldier becomes a tyrant, a traitor, an enemy of the people, is banished, and has to suffer the consequences. 10 seconds to go.
Wow, have you got 10? I've got 18. I hope we're on the same. I'm going to refresh. Tom, that was so helpful. I think that's really great. And the play opens, we should probably say, with Coriolanus Caius Marcius at that point coming out to quell a protest about grain.
Yes.
So the people are taking to the streets because they don't have enough to eat. That's
true. Yeah. The Senate, I bet from memory, the Senate has...
Oh, actually, there's a good message going on now from the National Theatre about the turbulent times we're facing. So we should take a moment to reflect on that. And some of you have already donated, and thank you very much. So you can do that via Instagram, or you can do that via this prompt now, and we really appreciate it. Okay.
Well done to the National Theatre.
Yeah, thank you, National Theatre, for putting this in our homes.
I think I first visited the National Theatre when I was 10 to see Wind in the Willows.
That's very cool. I just directed, which is Alan Bennett's version. I just had the great honour of directing one of Alan Bennett's talking head monologues for Nick Hytner, the London Theatre Company, and the BBC. That was one of my lockdown activities. Oh.
such a strange experience.
So weird. This is so weird. Oh yeah. Yeah, I totally forgot we did that. Yeah. So I don't know if you can see this. That's a small boy painting a red square.
There's our company, and I want to give them all a shout out and an enormous public tribute. A group of actors and the crew who just were tireless in the work ethic.
Yeah, amazing.
Commitment and discipline.
And also I made them sit on stage for the whole of the first half. So, yeah.
A truly amazing group of actors who we rehearsed with for 5 weeks, and then we ran this play.
Before you proceed any further,
in Covent Garden at the Donmar in London from December the 17th, 2013 to February the 12th, 2014. 2 shows on Boxing Day, or 2 shows the day after Boxing Day. I can't remember. That's not relevant.
Well, it is if you remember it.
Yeah.
I mean, the amazing thing about these 3 actors. Sorry.
About your... Because I think it'd be really interesting for people who don't know about your... Here we are with the opening scene, and Rashenda, Mark and Dwayne playing the citizens in protest about grain prices, and that startling opening image, and just talk about the conversations you had with Lucy Osborne, our designer, about how to create a space that was flexible enough to contain the many scenarios that take place in the play.
Yeah, that's a lovely prompt. Thank you, Tom. So Coriolanus is a massive play. It's normally done on a very, very big scale. So one of the brilliant things about these 3 actors you can see now is they're playing the whole of the Roman people who are beginning this uprising. What you saw at the start was Dwayne graffitiing on the back wall. Lucy and I looked at a lot of Roman graffiti during our process of designing the show, and we found 2 things that were great. All of this graffiti that was protest, thousands and thousands of years old, and the other thing we discovered is that in ancient Rome, and you're a classical scholar, Tom, so you'd be better at this than me, but they would paint a bit like you can see here, red up to just above eye height across the walls, because it has the effects of a color of keeping people in this continual sort of throbbing state of aliveness, really. And so we took that as a kind of gesture for the set, and that is the actual back wall of the Donmar warehouse, which is this warehouse that drops into Covent Garden. So you can't get, well, if you got through that wall, actually, you would be in the changing rooms of Diesel, which is a shop next door to the Donmar. That's as far back as it will go. So to give you a sense of proportion, that's about 6 meters from the front of the stage that the actors stood in a line at the beginning to the back wall, where they're all sat in these chairs. And really the production, the whole of this world is created from Lucy Osborne, our designer's imagination, but in the simplest possible way, with 14 chairs, a back wall, a floor and a ladder, and some paint. And that's it. So what you're about to see, I think, is, for me as a director, one of the great shared acts of collective imagination, which is a group of actors coming together to imagine this ancient Rome and all of these worlds that they need to create. At this point, I think you were running up and down the stairs front of house to prepare yourself.
Yes, it was, because I remember being the only member of the company not at this point in the production who hasn't gone out on stage yet. And a strange thing of, it's almost like before running a race or something. You're kind of just waiting for the gun to go off, and you know that once the starting gun goes, you're going to start running, and you're not going to stop for 3 hours. A kind of just an intensity of anticipation of just kind of trying to open your mind and limber up in, I guess, in a physical way and a mental way. Here and there he is.
Here we go. There you are.
Very difficult to. Who is that? Yes.
Yeah, because Mark Gatiss as Menenius has just brilliantly. Wow, look at that. Is
with the.
No, who is with very different Heather. So Mark Gatiss has just managed to calm everyone down, and you're coming in to do the very opposite.
Yes.
Wow. Feels like a long time ago, doesn't it?
It does.
I remember this was probably one of the scenes that we worked the hardest at. This was the hardest one to crack, I think.
This scene?
Yeah. Just to get, do you remember we started in rehearsals with you being on stage and then we realized you needed to be off and to come on with that energy and.
It's a very interesting introduction to a part, to any role in Shakespeare, because the first introduction is he's come out to speak to the people in the middle of a protest and to debate with them about the integrity of their argument. And it's all bound up with his idea of what service is. It's very strange because it's an introduction to Marcius's absolute and inflexible honesty, that there's something about him that cannot lie, and there's a perverse integrity to it, even though he is accusing the people of being fickle and changeable in their affections and loyalties.
Yeah.
I always found it a fascinating couplet when he says, "With every minute you do change a mind, and call him noble who was now your hate, him vile that was your garland." This idea that the people don't, in his mind, they don't adhere to one opinion. They aren't constant in their loyalties.
Yeah.
And I think it introduces you to the idea that this is a play about democracy and the relationship between the people and their leaders. And specifically in the next moment, Peter de Jersey plays Cominius, or maybe perhaps it's Alfie Enoch who plays Titus Lartius, talks about the election of two tribunes of the people. And I think Shakespeare took this story from source material in the ancient texts, in Plutarch and in Livy. And the people's tribunes were essentially elected representatives who sat in the Senate with a patrician class to represent the wishes of the people. So it's the beginning of a representation of the people's interests in a body of governance.
And here are those tribunes now. If we're lucky, we might see Elliot Levey here on the left later with the biggest lockdown beard I've seen. I know that's a large claim, but yeah, if we're lucky, we're going to see a huge lockdown beard. So they are playing the tribunes, whom you mentioned.
And Helen Schlesinger.
Who Helen does not have a lockdown beard as far as we're aware.
No. Helen Schlesinger playing a part normally played, we're saying, by a man, or written for a man.
Yes, it's actually, do you know, it's worth saying this. It's interesting to think how much in the short space of time that I was artistic director of the Donmar, so from kind of 2014 to I stopped being artistic director about a year ago. a couple of critics grumbled about the fact that that part was regendered, and that just wouldn't happen now. I think people just take that in their stride and accept it on the whole. You know, it's interesting to think how quickly we move and progress, and things that upset people actually just become, in the great imaginative world of theatre, absorbed. It was considered by some people controversial at the time.
Change is possible. Change is possible.
It is. So here we are now in the Volscian Senate, which is pretty poorly attended. It would appear that there's the brilliant Hadley Fraser, playing your nemesis.
It's also a peculiar thing. I think Shakespeare was curious about this too, that he finds in probably in his sources, is this idea of two people on different sides with such an intensity of mutual obsession that they almost become sort of twinned or conjoined spiritually.
Yeah.
You know, I think Orphidius and Marcius understand more about each other than they understand about anyone else.
Yeah.
In some peculiar, perverse military standoff.
Yeah. It's like, I sometimes think it's like there's really, you know, there's kind of cool, slightly early noughties car adverts where it's just two identical cars driving at each other, like through the Highlands or something.
Yes.
It's that kind of feeling.
Yeah.
And here's the amazing Big Idiot Sørensen, who plays your missus,
Virginia.
and the legendary Deborah Findlay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, the great Deborah Findlay playing Volumnia, Marcius's mother, and so for me, this was one of the reasons I never forget when we first sat down for a cup of coffee to talk about this, probably 8 or 9 months before we started. I don't know, maybe a year before we started.
Might have been, yeah. I remember, yeah.
When I went away and read it very, very kind of closely, and this relationship between mother and son, I had because I hadn't read it before. I'd read a lot of Shakespeare when I was training, and I'd seen a lot of it because I was always curious about it and had loved it as an audience member, but I'd never read this. And this relationship between mother and son, I can't think of another relationship in his plays which presents this bond in such a complex way as this. Which is that Marcius is ferocious, fearless, almost indestructible. He has just an extraordinary power.
Yeah.
And nobody can persuade him, nobody can defeat him. Very few can touch him or even, you know, bend his ear. But his mother seems to be the source of it all. His mother seems to be the location of all his bravery, all his courage, all his overachievement, all his pride, his integrity, his honesty, his physical power, and it is kind of an amazing insight into this bond, you know, that Rajendra Sandal, who plays the first citizen, we were speaking over it, but in the first scene, one of the first things you hear in this play is he did it to please his mother. So already implanted in your mind is Marcius is somebody who's done some very extraordinary things, some very brave things, almost sacrificial things for the city of Rome. Why has he done it? Has he done it for the city of Rome, or has he done it simply to please his mother? Has he done it to make her proud? And in this scene, you know, you see Deborah introduce this idea that the blood he sheds for the city is something she takes delight in, which is sort of almost perverse. for a mother to take delight in her son's wounds, in his pain, in his physical pain,
and to show him off, to go, look, my son's better than your son,
because he has 27, I believe it's 27 scars on his body.
Yeah.
And the more scars he has, the more proud she is.
Yeah. Tom,
tough love.
I know, tough love. While you reflect on mothers and sons, I might drop you out for a moment, because Jackie Boatswain, who's in this scene, wants to say a quick hi.
Let Jackie jump in.
Jackie, jump in. But stay watching, because you'll jump back on after that, if that's okay.
Yep.
Jackie, I hope you're ready. If not, I'll come back to you, Tom.
Okay, so what do I do? I just
I'm gonna drop you. I don't need to say that personally, but just then re-invite yourself, and I'll let you back in.
Before I go, I just want to say a quick thank you to everyone who is tuning into this and or watching online, or even remotely interested in what we did and how we did it, and are so grateful that you're interested and following and for your support. So thank you.
Okay, see you in a sec.
Bye.
Okay, let's see if I can do this, Jackie. It's a little bit, apologies everyone, letting people back in is a bit complicated. I think one of the things that might help is if you weren't in the instruction of Coriolanus, you don't request to join. Jackie, are you there? No, I can't see you. Okay, who I can see while we wait for Jackie is Elliot Levey, who plays on the Tribune. So I'm going to see if I can get Elliot and his massive beard. Let's try that. Is that going to work? Waiting for Elliot Levey connecting. Elliot, let's see the beard.
Hang on, I'm not Jackie.
No, I know, but I can't find Jackie Boatswain.
Hey, listen, it's good, isn't it?
You know what? It's not bad, actually. It's that weird. Yeah, sorry, you go.
No, sorry. I've got
Sorry,
I've got lots of family running around and dogs and things. I haven't seen it since I was on stage, and it's really good seeing what the faces do, because when you're sat at the back, you hear the voices and see the backs of heads. Very good. Well done.
Thank you very much, Elliot. Thank you for your excellent performance. You and Helen were just so brilliant. And I think what Tom was saying earlier about the fact that there's this relatively small company of actors carrying the whole of Rome with them is absolutely true. I'm talking to you, but at the same time, I can't get over the beard.
I know, I'm slightly distracted by it as well. And it's difficult because I really want to watch it. My brain's gone to jelly, and it might be lockdown, but it's quite a good story, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a great story. And 2014, yeah, definitely. Like, if this is no fun for you, this watch along, mute us and just watch the thing. And also, it's there for a week, so all of that.
Pablo thinks it's great too. I mean,
Pablo's into it. That's good.
Pablo's into it. It's for all the family. I genuinely don't know what scene comes after what scene. It's like
me, you do, and I direct it. Oh, hang on. Tommy's now doing the Battle of Coriolanus. Oh my God, those fireworks that we had. Okay, fine. I'm going to grab Tom back so he can talk to us about fighting people. Might see you later.
Slowly getting drunk. I'll see you later.
Great. I'm going to open some wine in a bit. Okay, bye.
Bye,
Tom
everyone.
Hiddleston, come back. Remove Elliot. See, I'm getting the hang of this, everyone. Sorry, Jackie, to miss you. We'll pull you in later. Tom, are you able to jump back in? Otherwise, it will just be me talking about my own production of Coriolanus, which is potentially of interest to... Oh, there you are. I'm going to go live with Tom Hiddleston. Ad. Look at this. We've raised £3,000.
Hi.
Hiya. Look, that's you going up the ladder.
Yes.
This is us doing the Siege of Coriolanus with 14 chairs and a ladder and some amazing acting. Tom, tell us what happened when you went up that ladder.
So during this scene that we're watching Alfie Enoch give an extraordinary monologue, thinking that Marcius is dead. I've gone up a ladder. The Donmar is a very small theatre. It used to be a banana ripening warehouse. I would imagine all of the space that they used to change the warehouse from banana ripening to being a theatrical space is playing space. So I climb up this ladder and I climb into the lighting rig, and then I crawl along the lighting rig on my hands and knees, and then down 2 fire escape ladders, and then I stand in a paddling pool while I stand like a mannequin while my armor is taken off by 4 amazing crew, and then I get doused in blood, and here I am.
Are you here? I was slightly worried that I made the sentence look like an 80s pop video. What you're about, and here's Peter DeJozy vamping brilliantly while you're getting that. I mean, vamping, he's speaking Shakespeare, but I was talking to Rob Hasty earlier, who is now the artist. Oh, here you are. Look at that. Should have put Belinda Carlisle on, really.
I would have started.
It looked great. It looked great. Honestly, it did look great. Sorry. Look at
what's interesting in remembering it is it was such backstage. It was such a mad journey because I had to unclip myself from a harness for health and safety.
Because you clipped on to climb up the ladder, right?
On to climb up, and it wasn't like I was being pulled up, but in case I ever slipped and fell, the harness would have caught me. Would have been a very strange scene. And then so I had to unclip myself from the harness, and then to then scamper down these 2 fire escape ladders and literally stand in a paddling pool while my armor was taken off and the buckles were taken off, and then doused in blood. And sometimes
what that story is that he goes alone into Coriolanus. They lock the gates on him. Everyone thinks he's dead, and you need to emerge as if you were single-handedly taking the city of Coriolanus. So we needed to create a moment where we believed that you'd gone into the city, forced the gates open, and the Roman army can now go in and sack it. So
bonkers.
It's like, yeah, I mean, insane. And also, you know, I don't know if it's helpful or not to have to do all that crazy stuff in order to then get back in again to make you feel like you have just sacked the city of Coriolanus. But yeah,
it's definitely very intense. It felt very
okay.
intense.
Now look, here's this fight. Now this fight probably had more rehearsal than anything else because it's so famous, so long, and so technical, and such a piece of choreography. You were both amazing in this. Erin was saying before, she just popped on before you came on, our stage manager, that it was a really important thing that you ran this every day, and her big recollection really is, you know, making this safe. She also mentioned that the sword snapped and flew off, not in this
yes, yeah,
moment that you'll see here, but we had some snappy swords.
Before every performance, we rehearsed this fight, and we basically had 3 or 4 runs at it, and the first one was always walking through the moves, and then the second one was at 40%, the third one was at 80%, and sometimes we did a fourth one at sort of 90%. So just to make sure that the muscle memory was absolutely up to date, almost like you do a kind of mental software update every single day to make sure that you know where the other person's going to be.
Oh, it's gone hand to hand. I mean, I think that's like a really important thing to say about this, which is when you do something like this on film or on telly, not on the stage as it is here, you do it in little bits. Yes. Like, okay, there's some famous fight scenes where you go, that's handheld, and, you know, Paul Greengrass followed, like, huge, but this is an unbelievably long piece of choreography to learn.
Well, it is choreography. It's like a kind of a dance or anything that's choreographed, really. And it takes. You have to trust each other. And Hadley and I, you know, we worked on this for 3 months.
Yeah.
Before we started,
with the amazing Richard Ryan, fight choreographer,
who is an amazing fight choreographer. And
he came and did Mary Queen of Scots actually when I did my first movie. He did the fights on that. It was brilliant.
And the extra challenge of doing it in a theatre that's on 3 sides,
Yeah.
like a courtyard or a kind of a horseshoe with edges. And that changes your relationship to angles as well, because you can't, if you can't fake the distance.
Yeah.
And actually, Hadley and I had to be incredibly close to each other and trust that the other person knew that the next blow was coming and to get out of the way. And that's about rehearsal, that's about practice, that's about eye contact. In fact, it's always about eye contact. If you keep looking at each other, you'll always be able to respond quickly.
Yeah, there's kind of an okay, isn't there? There's like an okay before I do. I mean, it happens at lightning speed, but you check before you go.
Yeah. But my memory of it is it creates an extraordinary, it's sort of an extraordinary, unique, unmanufacturable intensity of alertness and focus and attention. Every single
and
night.
Intimacy, actually, with someone that you're going to be intimate with later in the play.
I was partially relieved when it was over. Like a part of me went, okay, that's the fight done, and I have neither Hadley nor I are injured.
Yeah.
And it was a good one, you know.
Yeah.
At one point, you know, he throws me over his shoulder, and it's you know, I was young once.
Oh, stop it. I mean, so you know that Hadley and I have done a lot of plays together. So just before this, we'd worked together for the first time. He played Garry Kasparov in a brilliant play about Kasparov losing to Deep Blue. And we did this show together, but Hadley is very famous for being one of the greatest singers in the whole of theatre. Yeah. And we did a musical together at the drama called City of Angels, which we were actually about 5 days from opening before we locked down. So the set, the costumes, the wigs, the props are all sat in the Garrick Theatre. But Hadley has to, as part of the choreography at the start of that, a bit like this, do a really big jump.
Right.
And there is something really interesting about coming back to something 5 or 6 years later and having to perform a jump when you were a bit younger. I mean, he obviously nailed it, but we did have many laughs about time past. Yeah. My YouTube is buffering because my internet's not being. Where are we at, Tom? Because I've slightly.
So Cominius, a great Roman general played by Peter de Jersey, has just given Marcius his new name, Caius Marcius Coriolanus. He sacked the city of Coriolis on his own, and he now has a name which sits in addition to his given name.
Yeah.
And he's being feted and celebrated in a way that makes him uncomfortable. And it's a strange presentation. It's a remarkable presentation of his immediate humility, which I think is real in the face of having done something very brave. Yeah. Which is that he doesn't want gifts or reward. He doesn't take any satisfaction or fulfillment in reward for his deeds.
Yeah.
He refuses.
So a question for you, because like the reason that his mother is so obsessed with him getting all these wounds and being this perfect soldier and doing what he's just done, which is an amazing act of famous courage, is so he can progress politically. And he's interested in fighting, isn't he? And he's interested in being part of the army. But do you think he's interested in power? Because that's what his mum wants him to get.
I don't know that he's ever thought about. I don't know that one of Marcius's great flaws is the incapacity for self-reflection.
Yeah.
He doesn't think, doesn't stop to think.
Yeah, I think that's very true.
About consequence. He doesn't stop to think about the consequence of his words, really, or his actions. He he simply acts, and that is what gives him his power, because he acts without fear.
Yeah.
No,
I am still sadly buffering. Where are we at?
We are under a shower.
Aha. So, this for me, I think I'm going to say something that's a bit pretentious, but it's kind of a soliloquy for his physical presence and for his body in a play that's poetically obsessed with his body. So everybody wants a piece of him, either as this amazing soldier or because his mother wants him to bear these scars, as does her friend, so he can become politically powerful. And I was always very moved by the idea that you would get to see the cost of that and the pain of that, and what it's like to have actually obtained all of these wounds, have to receive this honor and this adulation that you don't want from the other soldiers and take it on, and then to give him a moment alone when you see that.
I think somewhere in the play there's a discomfort with the idealization, which is expressed in that previous scene, where they are fating him and they're chanting his name, and he says, "I pray you no more." I have done as you have done, that's what I can. Yeah. Induced as you have been, that's for my country. He's trying to say, all I've done is what I said I would do. I don't need anything. That there's some pleasure for him or some fulfillment in the act of doing, not in the reward or consequence of doing.
Yeah.
Which I think is perhaps a very physical thing.
Yeah, I think he lives in the physical, doesn't he? What is it Manoni says? His heart's his mouth?
His heart's his mouth, what his breast forges, that his tongue must vent. And what I understand is that I think that he's been brought up to be honest and to be true to himself, true to his nature by his mother. And now he's entering a phase in his life where, in order to please the people whose approval he needs, he has to be false to his nature. He has to say things he doesn't believe. And
yeah, it's a great bit of score by Michael Bruce just there, actually, from the same place as you, where we go back into City of Rome, and there's just something brilliant about it because you can feel his fate building. It's a brilliant score in that sense. It's just this piece of music that goes, what's coming up is really the body of the play after this victory. This is the act, as it might be in a lot of tragedies, this thing that seems great, this second Coriolanus, this is the thing that's going to propel him into his trajectory where he becomes this tragic figure, I would say hero, but
hero, a tragic figure, an anti-hero, a man who is brought down by his weaknesses, which once made him, which are connected to his strengths. It's a peculiar it's a very interesting presentation of a man who has such, who initially is presented as having such physical courage, such selfless bravery, which is curdled into arrogance, pride, contempt, entitlement, superiority, and is somehow that somehow becomes insoluble. That the gravity of whatever that center is, which is where his strength and his arrogance comes from, is somehow becomes something that is hard, that is impossible to reach or touch or soften, and he becomes more and more obstinate, more and more inflexible, more self-possessed as the play goes on, in a way that's very troubling and very dangerous.
There's a scene happening now with Menenius and the two tribunes, and the subtlety with which these actors reflected the political tension between these classes.
Yes.
I just thought was so wonderful. These scenes were a real joy to explore with these three actors, because they're all in their own very specific way extremely witty and understand and love playing politics in a brilliant way.
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember
there's your mother thrilled.
We shared a very, anyone who's been backstage at the Donmar may know this, those who haven't. There are only 2 dressing rooms, and they're quite small. And it fosters this amazing atmosphere between the actors, because there's no sense of separation. Everybody gets ready together. Nobody has a huge amount.
There's no star dressing room or. Yeah.
No one has a huge amount of personal space.
They're infested with mice. I mean, we try and deal with that on a regular basis, but you're in the centre of Covent Garden, so it's not glamorous, definitely.
But we all talked about it. Everybody I was in the dressing room with, and Mark and Elliot in this scene. We used to talk about every night we would all discover some new seam of political discourse about the play, that its complexity about how a society is ably governed, and that Shakespeare presents so many different sides of the argument. And Menenius, which I think is a truly great part, which Mark Gatiss is playing, is somebody who has dedicated his life to political service. I think has a genuine love for the city and for the people of Rome, but also has a perhaps familiar mercurial quality of changing the rhetoric or changing the tune in order to suit the mood of the time, which I think.
Yeah. Here is Peter de Jersey doing an amazing speech in Coriolanus's Caius Marcius's praise. I think there's something very touching about your relationship between you and your general. I was always very moved by what you and Pete found there, I think.
Yes. He's been, every time he's feted, every time Marcius is publicly celebrated, it causes him a kind of pain. He's no more of this, it does offend my heart. Is that modesty? Is that false modesty? Is that a performative modesty? Or does it genuinely offend his heart? Does he not want? Is he
resistant? I was just asking who we're speaking about. So you're speaking about Caius Marcius at the moment, but I was talking about Peter de Jersey's character, Cominius, who's your general, who just spoke a short speech in your praise at the top of this scene, and will go on speak a much longer one. Sorry, Tom.
No, I'm just thinking about this idea of what always fascinated me in the playing of it every night was his natural desire for achievement, and specifically for military conflict. And then in the aftermath, distancing himself from being celebrated for that achievement. And how peculiar that seemed to this particular character.
I think one thing she'd do brilliantly here is play a growing discomfort with what you know is coming. So you know that you're going to be asked to be consul. That's your mother's plan. That's Menenius's plan. And what you did, a bit like a kind of someone playing a really good poker player, is peppered throughout that performance, and people just saw that at these little sort of tells, these little twitches of discomfort and what sits underneath them is the idea that you're going to now have to do something you don't want to do. You'd much rather go back and probably attack Coriolanus again,
Yes.
than have to go into the Senate and be this politician. One of the things that... Okay, so I think we're back. I'm just looking for Tom. I think it's saying, let's see. Hi, Juliet. I'm just going to try and find Tom on here, who will jump back in a sec. Where are you, Tom? Okay, in the meantime, there's... Wait a sec. Okay, Tom. So, when you get a second, you might have all crashed where you are. Send a request and we will jump you back in. In the meantime, I can see Jackie Boatswain there. So I think I might say hi to Jackie, if that's okay, while we wait for Tom to jump back on. Hang on. Thank you, National Theatre, for thanking me for hosting. Jackie! Hi! How you doing? Sorry I missed you earlier. I think it sometimes queues people up or something. I'm not sure.
I know, I know.
How are you doing?
I'm all right, you know. I'm all right. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. It's wonderful and strange to see this again.
Isn't it?
Just looking at the amazing Peter de Jersey giving this great speech.
Yeah. But it's so funny watching it.
Mm-hmm.
It takes you right back in the moment, seeing it.
Yeah.
You know, it was my first Shakespeare ever.
Was it? Yeah, I remember that, I think. Yeah.
And I was terrified, but you made it so easy for me to understand and just be part of it. It was fantastic.
Oh, that's great.
First, you know.
Yeah.
Pop my Shakespeare cherry.
Well, I'm very honoured, and I take that kind of thing very seriously, Jackie. So thank you.
Pleasure. It was fantastic.
And you got to play a huge range of characters. So you were a Roman soldier. You were also a Roman matron. Not to make you sound matronly, but but you played lots of different statuses.
Yes.
Really. What was your favourite one to play? Was it the battle?
Oh my God, so much fun. I loved the battle. Just watching that all over again and all that sword fighting work. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. It was sort of a cross between acting and being a child, mucking about.
Yeah.
Playing soldiers in the garden. It was so
and
much
also
fun.
You're physically, I mean, speaking of someone who is infinitely clumsy, like you're physically so amazing. I think like it was so great to have your contributions trying to create that world.
Yeah, it was
I was really lucky.
My past life as a professional dancer certainly came in handy.
Yeah.
But I just remember trying to create so many different things with those chairs.
Yeah.
Oh.
Everyone was very kind and patient with the chairs.
Yeah.
I mean, there were some hilarious moments. I think someone had like a first night card that were two chairs just kind of sat on top of each other in a kind of chair intimacy.
Yes.
No, there was definitely a lot of room for satirizing our own attempts to do it with Paul Chesner ladder, but
it was,
there we go.
It was a fantastic experience, and it was so well received, you know, and so it was great that all of that hard work that we put into it was appreciated, and we were supported in that. It was brilliant. Thank you for having me,
Jackie. It's so good to see you. I'm going to jump off because I was going to see if I could get a hold of Peter de Jersey.
Cool.
Just have a quick chat with him. But it's so great to see you. Maybe we'll pop back on later if you have any more revelations about remembering doing this amazing production of Coriolanus.
Thank you.
Lots of love.
Nice
Take care. Bye-bye. Okay, so let's see if I can find another member of this fantastic cast. Sometimes, sorry, when I'm hitting the ad thing and sometimes it's just not working. I think possibly because Instagram is so excited. Here we go. Okay, let's see. Tom, if you are around, you can jump back on. Where are you? I'm just gonna sit here for a little bit and see if Tom pops back on. if Peter de Jersey has put his family to bed. There's also that. For those of you who are watching, this is this amazing scene in the play where he's required, Coriolanus, to go out and show his wounds, oh there's Tom, to the Roman people, basically to ask for votes. It's a much more humiliating equivalent of having to make yourself vulnerable. You know, like when you see politicians, hey Tom, I was just talking about this scene in which he's profoundly uncomfortable.
Keep going, yeah.
You know, also it's the when, for example, like with female politicians, you sometimes, they've stopped doing this now, but they go, really what you've got to be seen doing is baking. You know, you sometimes see people who've never baked in their life go, I'm going to do something that I'm going to try and make me look authentic. And he resists it in the most profound way, I think.
Yes, what I think is really resonant is you have a leader standing for election to high office, refusing to connect with the people he will be representing. He will be refusing to connect with the people who are going to elect him. He resents and is contemptuous of the practice of asking for people's votes or voices. And
one might even say he has no idea whatsoever as to why he should hold himself to the same account as everybody else. But I shall try and not be too satirical. But, you know, that's a great echo in this play, I think, is about whether or not people consider themselves to be above what everybody else does or has to do.
Yes.
I actually think his exceptionalism runs psychologically very, very deep. So there is more going on than that, I think. But it's sadly never not a resonant play.
Very sadly, yes. Yes.
Thank you, people who are sympathetically commenting on my inability to run this efficiently via Instagram Live. I do apologize. It might be like my bad, yes, art imitates life, absolutely. I'm really enjoying these comments, and just a quick shout to thank everybody who donated earlier. I didn't get a chance to do that thing where I sort of click and say thank you, but I shall make sure that I find some way to do that and post a proper thanks to you. I know everyone really appreciates it.
We're moving towards a moment in the play where you see this, you see a tension in the middle of the play, right at the beginning of Act 3, I think. You see a tension in Marcius, now named Coriolanus for his military achievements. And that tension is being pushed towards consulship, towards the highest office in this society, in this city.
And we worked out in rehearsals, didn't we, to sort of, it was helpful to manifest that visually. So we created this thing, which is part of the production rather than part of the play, where you're snatching at these red ballots that will then play in the following scene in a really amazing way. But it was quite helpful, I thought, for the clarity to see him literally collecting what you think of as votes.
Yes. It's a play about power. It's a play about power and who gets to wield it, and who deserves it, and in the central character, does he have the capacity to wield it, and how power corrupts the mind of the individual who bears the responsibility of it.
What's really great about this scene that's running now is that, and anybody who's listening to us at the same time as watching this, I urge you to go back and watch any of it, but this scene is an amazing study in watching these two extraordinarily sleek and smart politicians, the two tribunes here, flip a crowd.
Yes.
The seed of resentment was already sown by Coriolanus, by Caius Marcius in this scene, but the way that they work them up is really, really extraordinary. And I just thought Elliot and Helen were so brilliant in this.
Yeah.
You know, and they're reasonable, they're right. But it's a great, you know, it's for any of you who are drama students or acting students or anything like that. I mean, you can look at people's work in the whole of this play, but this is a great scene study, actually, how this occurs, I think. That's a brilliant Mark Stanley. Yeah. The National Theatre is saying to people that you can donate from the USA in response to their questions, if anyone else is asking that. And some people said, can I switch the comments off? I'm going to keep them, if that's okay, because I don't really have time, and partly I'm technically too incompetent to be able to jump to this thing, which I think is questions. Yeah, which is some good stuff here. Like, do you think Caius Marcius did all this just for his mother's approval, which is a question beginning the play. What's the most terrifying thing about playing this role? So I will try and click those, but you can stick them in the comments as well.
Yeah, can I use that as a jumping off point? I think it's an amazingly psychologically acute question, because I think perhaps in all of us, we would concede that in some way we all want to make our parents proud. And I think in Marcius that need is incredibly intense, because of the very complex attachment he has to his mother. But we are about to get to a place in the play where Marcius's anger and rage and loss of temper and patience and propriety evokes a kind of condemnation from his mother, and his mother tries to persuade him through lots of different kind of rhetorical tactics to get a grip, to be honest. And actually his temper has created a terrifying situation, and his mother now urges temperance, calm, reflection.
Are you ahead of me because you've not lost it yet?
No,
no, you're about to lose it. Oh, and the ballots flying where you are.
Okay, there you go. So whoever asked that question about does Marcius do this to please his mother, I think the play is asking that question. And in the following scene, there's a quote which I really latched onto the very first time I read it. Volumnia is preaching patience, calm, reflection, healing. That he should go back into the marketplace and be conciliatory and heal these wounds he's created, and be milder. The word is milder, mildly, to behave mildly. And Marcius says, why did you wish me milder? Would you have me false to my nature? Rather say I play the man I am. This relationship in the play about what integrity is, somehow, that the right thing to do would seem to be, if you've created a terrible situation, to go back and make amends. But Marcius's defense is that he was being honest, that he wasn't being false, that to go back would be to lie, and he doesn't, and that would be a kind of offense to his honor.
Can I that's coming up, that scene, and let's just set this up because it's great for people to just keep an eye on the run of this. So a lot of what we did in this staging actually we created in the rehearsal room. So in the original play, a lot of this scene, well, the ballots don't exist. You don't see that manifestation of an election being overturned. But what it felt in this very minimal production with hardly any props at all was that when objects appeared, they were incredibly significant, and that was a really good bit of storytelling. So you saw the tribunes come on then and fling the ballots out, and what they're doing, because they understand his character, perhaps on a level that even he doesn't. You know, you said brilliantly before, Tom, that he doesn't have this quality of self-reflection, is they're trying to get him to lose his shit. And I was thinking of this again, not to push too much at the.
They know about his character that he will, and
Yeah.
they know that it's the part of his character that has. I mean, what's the contemporary analogy? The contemporary analogy of great sportsmen who try to light the fire within themselves to overreach in their achievements, to somehow to find the competitive edge that allows them to win that match or to defeat their opponent.
Yeah.
And it's the proximity to extraordinary aggression, which in battle and in warfare, Marsh is able to channel. But the patience and the containment is required in politics, and he is uncontained.
Yeah,
so
it's you can't handle the truth, isn't it? You know, it's a version of that. It's also, to be honest, I've thought about this scene a little bit over the past couple of months, looking at daily briefings, and maybe a certain notable moment in the garden of Downing Street, where what you see is, you know, in this instance, correctly, pressure being put onto politicians and political advisors to give an account of themselves of what they're doing, but there is also a degree of goading going on.
Yes,
I think, and a desire to try and capture something that is unguarded, or something that feels more truthful than what's being said. And this scene is a fantastic manifestation of that. And again, just to praise this company, it was an amazing collective act, poetically as well, in Shakespeare's language, in rhythm, of driving you towards that explosion. And I just want to skip on actually to tee up what you were saying in this scene that we'll see after this with the amazing Deborah Finlay, because I think that's so key, and it was such a revelation for me in rehearsal. I remember finding that moment with both of you through some really good discussion of it. The idea that she asks you to lie, to go back out there and not and dissemble, to not be true to your feelings, to not be straightforward. The way Deborah plays that, your mother has never asked you to do that before. Now she's doing it because she thinks not only your career but your life is at stake, although perhaps for her those are the same thing. And you know, I think again Deb embodied that brilliantly.
Yeah.
And the moment that happens between you when she asks you to tell a lie and to become a politician is really, really amazing. Someone just said in the comments, Tommy, you look sad, are you okay? I actually think you're reacting that moment to answer someone's comment. It's a very profound moment. Yeah.
I'm just thinking. Yeah, I'm thinking. It just is a very intense. It's very intense. It's a very intense play, and it was a very intense thing to inhabit.
But those are amazing moments, aren't they? Those moments where we realise, goodness, I hope my mum isn't watching this, that our parents aren't infallible, that our parents might ask us to do something that doesn't run straight along the codes that they've taught us. And they might do that for our own survival, and they might contradict perhaps their own sense of justice, which is what happens, I think, between them in that moment. And I remember that so vividly, because I remember that revelation rehearsal, and that's one of the great moments I had as a director, which is discussing that, working it, finding it, and doing it, which you can't always get to happen at the same time.
Also, this is something very profound about any of our lives, which is a great change is possible when you realize that you have to take responsibility for who you are and what you do. That actually it starts, so that if to use myself as an example, my behavior starts with me. My actions, my responses, my opinions, my views, it's on me. I can't point the finger at other people, at my, there's an amazing line, I don't know where it started, but we all possess within us a very profound power, which is the power of how we respond. We're not responsible for things that happen to us, but we are responsible for how we respond. And I don't think Marcius has quite appreciated that in his journey yet.
Yeah.
Can I say something about I'm watching a scene, I don't know where everybody else is in watching it now, but this I think is an extremely resonant moment, which is quite disturbing, which is that Marcius has been elected to the highest office in this society, and he is threatening to use the military force at his disposal against his own people.
Yeah.
And it's very, very troubling.
It's very troubling. He's just been put in charge of everyone, and he's pulled out his sword on the floor of the Senate.
Yes.
And that sword is not just, I think, him threatening his personal physical power, but it's a total deal break for the moment. And you can see Peter de Jersey there, where I'm in my feeders, Cominius, try and calm him down, because, you know, that sword's got the military behind it. I think the extension of that arm has
Yes.
an exceptional muscle, and
High,
everybody, it goes very high, and everyone's very aware of what's just occurred.
Yeah, the stakes go very high, which is why the tribunes brand him a traitor and an enemy of the people.
Yeah.
That, I think it's Sicilia Helen Schlesinger, as the tribune, begins to articulate what that is, which is that he has elevated himself to a power tyrannical.
Yeah. Can I just briefly shout out for all the actors clearing up paper off the floor at this point, while a small boy runs around, just because, you know, you come up with these moments and then you have to ask the acting company to go and pick up 200 ballots. So sorry, Tom, to interrupt you, but I do feel a great wave of guilt asking actors to do a really boring scene change.
It's created to buy and sell.
I'm just trying to. This is the scene now. We're up to the scene, aren't we?
Yeah, someone's saying, could I explain the significance of the young boy with the sword? The young boy with the sword plays Caius Marcius's, Coriolanus's son, through the production, but you see him, I mean, on a very real level. I've got to do something while people pick up ballots, but I think he serves just poetically as a little reminder of this mother and son relationship, and of Caius Marcius's childhood, really, which was so deeply formative, because there's no father present in this play.
Yes, we talked about that a lot, didn't we?
Yeah. Yeah.
Good point. I often thought about that.
Someone's just said, what's your favourite scene? It might be this one, possibly, but yeah.
Well, it's a theme. It's the theme of the relationship between mother and son that runs between the play. But you've raised a great point, which is worth considering. My opinion, for what it's worth, which is a deeply untested, unacademic, amateur one, is that I think if you were to draw a comparison between the number of times Shakespeare examines relationships between fathers and sons in his plays, or parents and children, more often you will find a father involved. Off the top of my head, I'm trying to think of examples. I'm thinking of, I immediately think of Hamlet and the absent father and the ghost of the father. I think of King Lear, which is a father and 3 daughters, and then also Gloucester, Edmund and Edgar. Henry IV, which is King Henry IV and Prince Hal. Mm-hmm. And what the presence of a father does to the child, what Lear does to Cordelia and Goneril and Regan.
Someone's saying, as you like it, 12 points, yeah.
As you like it.
Yeah.
Cymbeline and Imogen.
Angela Carter says, why is Shakespeare always about fathers and daughters and never mothers and daughters? That's mothers and daughters actually is what he doesn't write. Just to be briefly academic about it.
But from memory, apart from Gertrude and Hamlet, this relationship here is the most explored.
For me, yeah, this is the great mother-son relationship. But I
played Hamlet after this.
Yeah.
In a production, I guess it was 3 years after this, and Lalita Chakrabarti played Gertrude, and we talked at length during the process of rehearsing and performing that play. Anyone who knows Hamlet knows there is an extraordinary scene in the middle of that play where Hamlet rounds on Gertrude, his mother, for marrying his uncle, and so much of his grievance is about the speed with which his mother moved on from his father to his uncle, and how could you have moved from this extraordinary man to this imitation of man, this poor imitation of a man. And we, long story short, Lolita and I talked at length about how Shakespeare doesn't give Gertrude much to say in her own defense.
No.
She doesn't get to sort of represent her interests. She never gets to say, look, it was quite complicated, and can I talk to you about it?
Yeah, it's pretty tough for me, actually. Yeah.
She mostly has to, she's written as someone who is very shocked by the strength of his rage, and very disturbed by Hamlet's haunting. She doesn't see the ghost, but she's very disturbed psychologically disturbed by the scene, but she doesn't get to articulate much apart from her own shock. And I often thought of this relationship between Volumnia.
There's that look we were talking about. Sorry, it's just got to the amazing bit with you and Deborah. And also just in the staging there, just those three, parents, all to an extent. He doesn't have a father, but he has these two father figures, just all looking at him and bearing down on him with the weight of their love for him. Sorry, Tom, I interrupted you mid-flow there.
No, that's a good point. Menenius is referred to as his uncle. Mm-hmm. We don't know whether that's a kind of, he's an uncle figure, an avuncular presence, or he's actually an uncle by blood. And then Cominius, played by Peter de Jersey, is a father figure in terms of being a military superior. Yeah. Cominius in the play has been a Roman general, and he has also been a consul, and a successful one in both roles. And I suppose is somebody who Marcius would respect.
There's, in this scene as well that's happening, what you see brilliantly is a flare of your mother's temper, in terms of where does he get it from. There you go.
She says, thy valiantness was mine, thou suck'st it from me, but oh, thy pride thyself. He's she's the only one who can influence him. Which is why I think psychologically it's such a fascinating relationship to play. Yeah.
Well, it's just watching you go, okay, thank you. Yep, got that. Cool.
Yes.
Great. Yeah, someone just said here, the wince when you yield is great. Really great.
Mildly, you see the resentment. It's so curious. There is the strength of his resentment at doing something he doesn't believe in.
Yeah. Someone's just said, can we explain the difference between consul and tribune? And that's a brilliant question, I think, in terms of the different versions of politicians and political classes in the play. So the tribunes, you could say self-styled, or a version of elected, are the voices of the people. In some other productions of the Coriolanus, they're sometimes played as union leaders or representatives of working bodies. They'd probably be the closest to members of parliament, or if you're watching from another country, state representatives. So they carry with them the authority of representing the people. The consuls are exclusively, in this version of Rome, I say elected. The vote is not necessarily of the people. It's not necessarily what you need to be made consul. You're made consul by your peers, by the Senate, but you need the voices of the people to be able to do it. So the consuls are the ruling class. They're the privileged. They often come from the warriors. They will have been, as Volumnia has with Caius Marcius, which is Coriolanus's name before he sacks the city of Coriolis and is given the name as a tribute and an honor. They're raised into those roles, and there's an expectation. You might say, we know, don't we, that our current Prime Minister, I think, said when he was very, very young that he was going to be Prime Minister. Now, that's not exclusive to someone of Boris Johnson's background, which is a privileged background, but there is a sense that there is a privileged class who are shown the routes to attaining a consulship. I hope that's helpful. Yes,
it's a funny one, isn't it? Because you have to. We've got a kind of a Jenga tower of historical references. We've got, we're interpreting Shakespeare, who is fashioning his understanding of Roman history through Elizabethan politics, and he's leaning on either secondary sources or he's leaning on the Roman historian Livy or the Greek historian Plutarch, who wrote these lives of these ancient figures.
Check out Livy and Plutarch, everybody, if you want to go deeper into Coriolanus.
And talking really about, talking about a figure who may or may not have existed 2,500 years ago, when Rome was not an empire. It was a young, early republic, a young society trying to organize itself. And
really great point is that Britain had not been a democracy when Shakespeare wrote this play.
It was still a monarchy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes, and Rome itself has a curious history, because after this, the Republic became more sophisticated, I think, and this is a slightly nerdy classical aside, but Romans became very frightened of tyrants. Autocracy was deemed as a very bad thing, that one individual could held sway in power absolute, and something closer to a republic, which was a kind of equality distributed among the people, but with a governing body who were deemed responsible enough to make important decisions. And then, as we see in Julius Caesar, people get competitive about who holds most sway. And after Julius Caesar's time, you have the first Roman emperor, and then you're in an empire with an emperor for 300 years, 300 odd, until Constantine.
Tom, I'm going to pause you for 1 second so we can just reflect on what's going on this scene.
Yes.
Because it's so great. Not that I am not keen that you walk us through Roman history.
I finished.
It's good, it's good, it's good. Because actually someone just asked on the questions how you break down a play like this. And one of the ways in which you do it is by jumping into that Roman history and working out not only the context in which Shakespeare was writing, but also the period he was writing about. That was very much part of our process. But where you're heading, I think, with all of that research is to a distillation where you just wind up with you stood in a black square that's just been painted to be tried in public. And what Helen Sessinger is doing brilliantly here is working up the crowd that is the audience of the Donmar Warehouse.
Yes.
So
yeah.
as you know, we've got a really small company, and brilliantly, you know, the actors are in amongst the audience at this point, pushing it forward. Yeah. There's Peter Jersey pleading for what actually converts from being your consulship to your life, I think, at this point.
This is the turning point where the people banish the tyrant from the city.
Yeah.
And what follows is a piece of poetry by Shakespeare, which is one of the most contemptuous, bilious, aggressive pieces of poetry I've ever come across.
Someone just said on the YouTube comments, oh my God, this is my school. And actually, I think there is a thing where, here we go, you're being bullied till you break.
It's the breaking point.
Yeah. Great. I banish you. He just cancelled Rome.
Having been cancelled by Rome.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do societies control the power of tyrants? Question mark. Discuss.
Yeah.
This line that's coming up, one of the most famous lines in the play. There is a world elsewhere. And there's something else about Marcius Coriolanus, which I want to just briefly touch on, which is his stubbornness, obstinacy, intransigence, and warlike nature are all bound up in his self-created isolation. He's one of the most lonely or alone characters in Shakespeare that I can think of. Yeah. And he continues to make himself alone. He uses that first person pronoun, I, so much. Yeah. I banish you.
One of the amazing things I was going to say about having the actors on stage for the first half is that he can go, there's a world elsewhere. Michael can just write this really brief piece of music, which is just enough for Deborah to step forward and your mother can be there. Yeah. And what's brilliant is about the proximity of action to consequence when you're doing a production on this scale.
Yeah.
You know, it's this amazing cry, chilling cry that's just when she realizes the consequence of what you've done. You know, so extraordinary. And I think there's something in your performance there, Tom, as you're right, he doesn't have a lot of room for self-reflection, but he knows what he's doing at the end of that scene. In your performance here, it doesn't come out of heat. He might not understand what's going to happen to him, but he makes the choice.
Yes. Yeah. Born out of, I don't know what, born out of some extraordinary, almost unnatural degree of self-determination.
He just can't bear it anymore, can he? I'm sort of, I'm being silly when I say he cancels Rome, but he sort of cancels himself as well. And I think in the second act, you see that in where he goes.
Yes. Well, and to simplify it, somebody told me when we first committed to doing this together, that you can reduce the tragic flaws of his great tragic plays, of Shakespeare's great tragic plays, to almost one word. With Hamlet, it's grief. With Othello, it's jealousy. With Lear, it's, what would you say, madness, or
no, I don't know. I'm gonna ask Rob Hasty that later. He'll be well equipped to answer that question, but I don't think it is.
I'm thinking about the tragedies now.
Safety, I think, probably to an extent in Lear. But what is it with Coriolanus then?
Pride in the ancient sense. Not like, oh, I'm really proud of a friend for, you know, for achieving that thing they're always supposed to achieve, but pride meaning a degree of entitlement that is enlarged and amplified within you, which creates an impenetrable sense of superiority.
Yeah.
That's Marcius's downfall, is pride. A lack, I suppose pride is the opposite of humility.
Yeah.
Would you say?
Yes, I would. I think for me, it's also a play about anger as this terrifying force, as a force for destruction, as a force for change, how new worlds are created and broken, how it corrodes the self. You know, the amazing thing about this relationship with this son and his mother is that when you get right down to it, there is a rage there that possesses both of them.
Yeah.
You know, and I think I was always very interested. Look, we think it's late among Shakespeare's tragedies, and I mean, he lived to a relatively ripe old age for the century he was living in, but you know, it's toward the end of his career as a playwright, and I do think also there's a sort of what he's done is put some of his professional impatience. You know, I sometimes think, wow, that must be 20 years of just getting nonsense notes on your plays from people, you know, 20 years of people going, you know what would be really great is if you changed that bit. I mean, Tom Stoppard plays with that hilariously. Oh, hang on, wait, we're at the tomatoes. Okay. So we got to talk about tomatoes.
Okay, well,
and it's the interval, but let's take us into the interval by talking about tomatoes, Tom.
Okay, we wanted to close with an image of humiliation, I think, and you know, what does it mean to have been Rome's greatest champion, mm-hmm. and then to have the entire city, ostracize you, and what does that look like? I'm just going to interrupt you there. I was just going to talk about poaching tomatoes so they didn't hurt your face. Yes, well, I can't remember how I was going to. How do we decide to do? Thank you for the tomato emoji, people in the comments. I think we definitely experimented with lots of different types of soft fruit. Just pointing out tomatoes as a fruit there. Just people are impressed by my broad base of knowledge of organic foods. But yeah, we settled on tomatoes. We tried it with some stuff. We did need to cook them a little bit so that they didn't attack you. Technical rehearsal, because it's important. Let's say it's important that these tomatoes are thrown with some force and velocity, and aim. And I was like, oh, that felt more like a rock than a tomato. Yeah. Wasn't poached enough. Don't know. It's just. So we decided to poach them so that in order that when they hit me, they sort of they sort of splattered in an appropriately humiliating way. Yeah. They weren't too hard, because sometimes on a 2-show day, because we did matinees and evening performances sometimes back to back. I thought, I don't know if those tomatoes aren't soft. I don't know how I'm going to feel about myself in the interval. Yeah. However, there were always, I mean, maybe this is true of all theatre companies, there were backstage always, every night, astonishing reserves of cake and supplies. It's a lot of cake. Talking of which, I'm just going to find my corkscrew just because I'm going to have some wine, because it was the interval. Thursday, there we go. Yeah. 9:30. Yeah.
I mean, it's quite. What time is it where you are?
3:30.
3:30. So you can't have any wine. Sorry, you were talking about cake. Yes. Can I just make a suggestion? I'm just thinking. No, I think I get a warning when I'm running out of Instagram Live. So maybe we'll just leave it until then. I was going to jump out at the interval, but I got distracted with tomatoes. So and opening my own wine, frankly. Wow, look at this. We've raised a further £1,700 and 59 pence.
Amazing.
You people are absolutely amazing. And people are also donating directly via YouTube. And that's so great. Thank you.
Thank
we
you,
really
everybody.
appreciate that.
It means a lot. It means a lot to us. It means a lot to the theatre community in the UK. I'll just say briefly, I was so honoured that the National Theatre wanted to come to the Donmar and broadcast this production, because I think at that time the National Theatre Live broadcasts were almost always productions which were staged inside the National Theatre building. And I remember when you said, like, I think we might be able to do a broadcast of this, and it's just such a we were all so grateful that we were able to, that this production could be seen beyond the confines of the very small theatre we were performing in.
Yeah.
And it just is, it is a part of the tradition of live performance in the UK, and I know it's something that you and I are proud of.
Really proud.
And
not in a Coriolanus way, though.
Not in a Coriolanus way. We're grateful that we're allowed to be part of that community. I think yeah. British theatre is something that has been world class for a very long time, and was long before I was even around or interested in joining it.
I think it's probably true to say, I mean, I know there are many roles that you're famous for, but you would not be Loki were it not for theatre.
Yes, I started my life in the theatre for 100%. I started my acting life with Shakespeare. Shakespeare is, for many, not all, I understand it's not everyone's beginnings or necessarily their cup of tea, but for many actors, grounding in Shakespeare is a sort of entry point, not just in the UK but all over the world. We're to your point about the enormous generosity of these donations.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you sincerely from us. It means a great deal.
Yeah, it means absolutely loads. And look, there are lots of very, very worthy places and causes at the moment, but I think for you and me to be able to get on here and talk about this thing that we love and value so much and owe so much to, and have you support that's really great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, I think I'm going to see if Hadley Fraser is there.
I think it's a very wise moment. Because
you should get a cup of tea. I'm going to try and find Hadley Fraser. If I can't find Hadley Fraser, it will be me talking. So come back and rescue everyone from me, Tom. But let's see if Hadley's there.
I will see you
Thanks,
shortly.
Love. Cool. Bye.
Bye.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. I'm going to just see if I can see running out of battery, so that's going to be another technical problem. Now I'm just going to reassure you that I am hitting the add people button and it just sometimes doesn't work. Hang on, I wonder if I'm going to try clicking over to your comments so I can grab a question that I can try and answer. I try and let Hadley in. Someone is asking me if I have any tips. Oh, there he is. We can ask Hadley this as well. Any tips to overcome nerves as a drama student? Waiting for Hadley Fraser. Any news on City of Angels coming back? We will try and answer that as well. We would love it if it came back. We don't really have any news yet. There is still uncertainty about when the theatres might reopen and if we can get it all back together again, but we are all hoping very hard that that is the case. It still says waiting for Hadley Fraser. Yeah. I can charge my phone while live. Thank you. I think I have to flip the orientation of it, but that is fine. Okay. It's not letting you in, Hadley Fraser. I'm not taking that personally. I'm going to cancel the request and try it again. Hang on. Cancel. Let's try that again. Okay, let's see. There you are. Okay, another go at this. Adding Hadley Fraser. Waiting for Hadley Fraser. And he's normally so punctual. Ooh, okay. Maybe if I plug my phone in. Sorry. This is terrible technology. Yeah, and I'm now reading your... Oh, connecting. Hadley Fraser.
I'm here. Hello.
Hi. I'm going to try and work out a way to stack these things. Nice background. Look at that. There's a plank going on. You've got your spectacles on. Yeah, what's that big map?
An old map of London.
Yeah. Very cool.
How's it going? Have you been... How's the sort of watch along?
The watch along is good. Yeah, it was good. Tom is being fantastic. Sorry, I'm like, does it look in your thing like I'm a different orientation from you?
What if I do that?
Okay, you could do that. Yeah, that's better. But is that then weird for everybody else? Does everyone then do that with their phone and I read comments that way? We're going to have to live like this for a while, everybody. I'm sorry. Yeah. I probably should just like switch my...
Oh.
With battery. God knows what that just did. I'm really sorry. I'm rubbish. Hadley,
Hello.
What was it like being in this production?
What was it like? Do you know, I've only just started watching actually, and
Did you watch
I'm not one who...
Have you ever seen it? Oh, here you are.
No, never. No, and I'm not particularly one to watch myself, so it was quite an odd experience. And to be honest with you, as soon as I finish a production, I pretty much sort of consign it to the emotional and memory dustbin. And so it's been quite nice just to sort of key in with this again. There's lots of things I've forgotten, like all the painting on the floor.
Yeah.
You know, the sort of basketball courtness of it. I'd forgotten all of that. I'd forgotten just quite how close proximity it felt that we were with the audience. And being as someone who's sort of acted at the Donmar a good few times, you know, it's brought home actually when you see it from this, just how close everybody is, and I miss that desperately.
Proximity, yeah. I mean,
the proximity thing, yeah.
Someone's saying it's good, even if it's sideways, which is great. I'm trying to read these. Yeah.
Josie, you're sideways.
I mean, to be honest, I get that a lot. Could you guys talk a bit about the set? Do I get secondhand embarrassment through watching myself? Yes, I'm actively embarrassed, but I'm trying to raise money for the Donmar House. Yes, I'm experiencing shame. Thank you. Someone's saying I'm from Yorkshire. More shame. I'm from Lancashire. Well, I'm not even from Lancashire actually.
I'd also forgotten that I did a Leeds accent as Dilla Cecidius.
I'd forgotten that. Did we have to repaint the floor every night? Oh my god. So we had to make that poor child, there were two of them, run around with a paintbrush, and we'd sort of mark him out of 10 for whether or not he made the corners too wet. One of the corners got too wet on this live, so it's a bit splodgy. No criticism for that child, who's probably now 19. I don't know, but
17,
that was an issue. We had fun painting. Do you remember rehearsing that random disused building?
Yes, I do, with rats in it. Yeah, that felt very Shakespearean. You are going to hurt your neck.
No, I'm fine. I'm good. I'm doing a lot of yoga in lockdown. It's fine.
So that's all right then.
Yes. Someone is saying, will all the donations be shared between the Donmar and the National? Yes. Josie, mind your neck. Yes. Okay. I'll do that.
They'll be shared with the Donmar, the National, and Josie Chiropractic.
Josie, you can change your orientation without physically moving your phone. I know, but I can't plug it in. Oh, what if I did it upside down? Hang on. Oh God, this is just going to go wrong, Cads. No, it's now just completely.
It might be.
Like, that's just now you're. I mean,
there's something quite nice about that, though, Jose.
Quite relaxing. It's like my head's your head. Like, yeah, that's.
I bet you did about also.
No, okay, I'm going to stop moving the phone. Thank you, everyone, for your help. There's Al Coomer on there just pissing himself because I'm so shit. I'm going to hurt myself. Yeah. Sorry, Hadley. This should be about you and your role in this production. Joe.
I don't remember any of it, Jose. This is fun. This is so much more fun. Okay, let's not talk about Coriolanus.
So I'm going to do my confession with this, which is, so Hadley and I just rehearsed this Sea of Angels together, having done it like 6 years previously, 5 years previously. And I did this thing because there were actors in the production who'd not been in it before, where I didn't want people to feel like they were being like dropped into something that already existed. So very stubbornly, I didn't watch the video that we had of the previous production. Before anyone asks, it's not high enough quality to put it out there. It's like a kind of grainy, weird thing. But if you can remember it, it's good. Our brilliant associate director, Jordan, would like sometimes watch it. And you remember, sadly, I'd be like struggling in rehearsal to sort of solve a moment. And Jordan would just really quietly come over and go, just to remind you, when you last did this, you did this.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, that's brilliant.
It was good, wasn't it? Yeah, we'd have a sort of collective. Honestly, oh yeah, that was really good.
Running around with the paint at the beginning, I was like, oh yeah. Oh man.
Yeah, I know that, and yeah, I mean, it's. I'm just watching it now. I've got it on the laptop right now. Tom and me are going in for the kiss any moment. This is going to be. There it is. Yeah.
Yeah. No, wait, you kissed him yet?
In fact, it's coming up now. The beard. I wonder what it was like kissing the beard. I hope it was all right. There it is. Look.
When Tom comes back on, he's going to answer that question.
Okay. Can we do 3 people on this at the same time? Is that,
we
no,
can't.
or is it just it's a doubler?
But no, it's just.
Okay. Yeah. Ask him what it was like kissing the beard.
Or just kissing you. Or we could ask Rosie. Where's Rosie? We could get Rosie and she'll tell us. Rosie, to be clear,
she's in the next room.
Not someone we're keeping in another room to talk about kissing experiences.
Yeah. I remember. I do remember this scene actually, obviously, because I was in this scene. But I mean, there's some incredible scenes at the end of Act 1 that I just watched. I'd forgotten just how majestic Deborah Findlay is at the end of Act 1, as she says Thomas, and you a-hole. Rosie's just saying, I can hear you.
You can come in. Come in,
I think Rosie. She's in her pajamas, if I'm honest.
She's in her pajamas.
I think she's in her pajamas.
I mean, everybody wants to see that, but never. Yeah, no. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some incredible performances in this. I caught a picture of Dwayne Walcott just being absolutely legendary.
Brilliant. Look at him in the background there, just observing this. I mean, to be briefly serious. Oh, someone's saying time out soon. Yeah. To be briefly serious. There is something about the intensity of this kinship, and then without a massive spoiler, a betrayal that's about to occur between the two of them that really powers the second half of this play. You know, and in Shakespeare's dramaturgy, the incredible shock that he goes, there's a world elsewhere, and it turns out that world is his enemy's house. You know. Yeah.
It's incredible. I remember us talking about the sort of spiral of action in this play, and how, especially for Tullus Ophidius and Caius Marcius, it sort of starts with that incredible fight.
Yeah.
And it sort of it acts like a whirlpool and draws everybody else in, and you know, not that I'm saying yes, mine and Tom's characters are the most important, but it feels like there's this kind of this constant revolution around that fight.
Yeah.
And they come back. I'm sure you and Tom talked about that quite a bit. But
I think also that to be matched by somebody. I mean, you know, I think I see this as when I work with you on a musical. There's a thing about musicianship, right? So you definitely see actors sort of measure each other in the rehearsal room and give respect and go, you know, the return of serve on this is going to be amazing, just to pick a tennis analogy, never having played tennis. But, you know, you know, that you can see actors meet and know that something fantastic is going to happen. When music is involved, speaking as a not particularly musical person, you know, what I see is you and other people in a show like City of Angels, who really understand music and musicality, just do this thing that goes, yeah, there's someone, not in a vain way, who's like at a level of musicianship that is extraordinary. Like the way that band powered everyone forward in City of Angels, you know, was amazing. And thank you, the thousands of people who are on here at any point just despairing, basically, at my ability to use this properly. I'm just going to see if I can get the amazing Peter de Jersey back. One sec. Let's see. Are you there, Peter? Waiting for Peter de Jersey, who's doing some amazing acting at the moment. Okay, let's give that. Hey everyone, what I'm gonna do while I try and find Peter is just see if there's a question that I can try to answer. So do post some. Hang on, I think these requests are coming up. Thank you for your encouragement. Someone's very kind of saying it's part of the experience and I'm doing well. I appreciate that. I also appreciate Alastair Coomer just coming on here and laughing openly at me, who's our amazing casting director. Peter.
Hello.
So sorry. Okay, let's try that again. Pete, have you been watching or have you been putting your kids to bed?
I've been putting my kids to bed, so unfortunately I haven't been watching.
You've been amazing.
What I've been doing is I tuned in to see a few of the comments that my other playmates have been making, and I've been enjoying it and journeying back. But the fact is that the child that I've been trying to get to settle, and he's very good, he was born, as you recall, in our first week of rehearsal. He is now 6. No. So that gives us all a bit of a time frame for all of this. That does give us a
time frame. Yes, yeah. Peter, selfishly, I had totally forgotten that. I think mainly because I was worrying about sort of chairs and paint and...
Chairs and paint and everything. Well, you gave me a call and I was in the park with my family and my first son, and we knew that the second one was coming along. And I said to you, Jess, I'll just have a word with my wife and see if that's all right. Being that we'll start rehearsals, you know, when the baby is due. And she said, absolutely, that's going to be fine. And so I called you back. And while I was swinging my other child, we sort of, you know, we got it all going, which is great.
Peter, you were in the first play I ever directed at the Royal Shakespeare Company that I was reminiscing about the other day with my friend Bennett Brandreth, who came in to do that amazing work on rhetoric.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. Erin Murphy just texted me to say, you're sideways on Instagram Live. Yes, Erin. Thank you, I know.
Yeah.
The nation
maybe you're
knows.
the only one going in the right direction.
But one neighbour, her 8-year-old son, Finn, has just sent me a picture where he's trying to be sideways to show me what I look like. So I think, yeah, everyone's pretty clear about that. But
yes.
So Pete, I was just, it was so wonderful to work with you on one of the first classical plays I directed, and I was so
believe what you will. Yeah
when you said we do this, and it was a wonderful experience. And I think it is you anyway, and it is in your character to be this wonderful gentle leader of people, but you were such a great you know, creative force and balm to the company. And yeah, I've got such fond memories of how lovely you were with everyone. I mean, you are lovely, but...
Well, that's very kind. I think that it's an interesting thing. The more complicated a play is, I think more than often the cast can have a really great time because you need some relief. So you get an opportunity to bond, and everyone was very open and up for telling their stories. So because we were dealing with some very difficult things, I think our kickback was to enjoy ourselves. So we all had a ridiculously silly time because we knew we had to go to some very uncomfortable places in the story, you know.
Yeah. And I think Comenius, I think his torment at the fall of his star player is really beautifully acted by you in this, and you really feel it. You feel people suffering in lots and lots of different ways.
Yes, I mean, when I had a brief look earlier at what was going on this evening, I saw yourself and Tom talking about the absence of a father figure, and
you're like, wait a minute.
Oh no! I thought I think this is where Comenius comes into play in the story, and you had the wonderful idea of having the young Marcius wandering around, and from my point of view, I was thinking very much of somebody who was thinking at some time they're going to have to pass on the baton for the glory of Rome and for it to, to continue. Yeah. And I used to take the images that I would see on the stage of the young Marcius the son, and I'd make him Coriolanus, and it would be my first images of him. Yeah. And I'd sort of build on that throughout. And so whenever I was working with Tom, I'd always have this image of a child in the background. Yeah. And I can't remember the name of the philosopher, but I think that Comenius understands the nature of Marcius, that he's quite a fiery personality, but he thinks and believes that he's going to be able to shape him. And I think there's an opportunity there to shape him. Many of his mentors do. But I can't remember which philosopher said it. It said the human character is very much like a charioteer trying to control two horses pulling in different directions. And I believe that Comenius saw in Coriolanus a potential great leader with rough edges that needs to be guided. Yeah.
I think that's beautiful. That charioteer image is fantastic, Peter, and it's exactly that kind of classy analogy that makes you so joyful to rehearse with.
Well, I just think if you're going to be a leader, it takes a great deal. And not all of it's going to be pretty. And I think this is what Shakespeare examines, We ultimately it will come down to, so I think for a quote from Martin Luther King, we have to live together as brothers or die as fools. Yeah. Who we choose as our leaders, we have to answer for that. And I think that for Comenius throughout this story, he sees great potential and is hugely disappointed with the outcome, and is sort of devastated by it all, really, because what could have gone so well turns out to be a great tragedy, really. Yeah. So
I think that's right. I think that's so cute, Pete. And this is so great. This moment. I'm so pleased that you're on Instagram as this moment is playing out films in the same place as me. Just your suffering at being unable to recall him to the father that you've been for him.
Yes, I mean, there's later on the stuff when he's turned away by Coriolanus, and he says to him, he reports back and says, he's going to unleash such a terror as was never seen before. Yeah. And we cut to a little while earlier, and you're saying that he's elected this man to be the next leader of Rome, and I love the line, all is his. His actions, he turns terror into sport, so he knows he's dealing with someone who is completely dangerous. And all that's going on with the tribunes, who Comenius has dealt with, I have served Rome, I think he's taken knocks, and he sees what's happening to Coriolanus and hopes that he can pull him back from the brink, but it's not to be.
Yeah. Spoiler. Right. I might be. I'm just going to go and see. I think that's okay, Pete. If I can grab Tom back, and I'm very much hoping we can get a couple of other people on. And the play is hurtling towards its conclusion. It is so wonderful to see you.
Lovely to see you too. Just to share something with everyone. Everyone asked, what's your favourite point in a play? I think it was when you told us in the second half we wouldn't be sitting at the back.
Oh, mate. Oh, I tell you, we should get Elliot Levey back, because there was some shit going on in that lineup. I don't know if you I think what happened is you sort of developed a kind of weird communication by vibration.
Yes,
when you were
exactly,
sitting there very generously watching the scenes that were taking place in front of you. That you weren't
which was
I'm
great
sorry.
to watch and to enjoy everyone's work.
Yeah, I
know.
can only continue to apologise for keeping.
Don't apologise. It was a
actors on stage
strong
the entirety
theatrical
of it.
image, and
Yeah,
that
yeah, it
was
was a great
Rome.
image. Yeah.
We were the observed of all observers. So.
Yeah, great image, shit job.
Yeah. All right.
I'll see you soon. Take care.
See you
Lots of
soon.
love.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take care. Take care. Bye.
Okay, everyone. So I am going to just see if it's possible. Let's see who's there. Do we have Tom Hiddleston still there? We do not. So, Tom, I'm sure you're still watching. Jump back on and I'll try and jump you back in. And in the meantime, while... Oh, is that you there? You've just popped up. No, that is... I could get better at this. I could get better at it. I feel like... Because what's happening is... No, there you are. I've requested you, but sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. So let's see if you're going to pop back on. Do I have any tips how to overcome nerves as a drama student? I'm sorry. Have I ever written a book about theatre? I have not written a book about theatre. I probably should be doing that during lockdown. Tom, there you are.
Hi.
Hello. Brilliant. Someone's just saying, I'm like the David Attenborough trying to find the elusive bird that is you. That is really beautiful. And I feel like people are just probably getting into metaphor.
Mm.
The National Theatre says I'm doing so great, Josie. So that's very encouraging. Thank you, National Theatre.
I loved what Peter was saying about...
Beautiful, wasn't it?
Yes, all of it.
Yeah.
Two horses, both going in different directions.
Yeah.
I think that's Plato.
Is it?
I think that's a Platoism, yeah.
Ooh. I mean, you're good, Tom. Has anyone Googled it? People should... Actually, you should be watching Coriolanus. So we will find that out later and post.
We will.
We will source Peter's quote.
Yeah.
Now, my...
It's to see everyone.
What's that done?
It's so nice to see everyone.
I know. I
think this endeavour we did.
Yeah.
Also, what Peter was saying about what a fun time we had, often very true. I've done 2 Shakespearean tragedies in the Donmar Warehouse, Othello and Coriolanus. And on both occasions, we've had a kind of unreasonably good time backstage. A lot of laughter is my memory of both companies. And I think that's something you have to... you sort of have to some people say when they come and see you do something that's very heavy, they go, yeah, God, this must be such hard work. And you're sustained by the levity that somehow the joint endeavour gives to you. And as we know, Deborah Findlay, the great Deborah Findlay, used to initiate a nightly Deb's disco.
Yes.
Which is basically a kind of backstage, literally a backstage disco to a European dance track, The Great Beauty by Paolo Sorrentino. And the dancing was a way of sort of leavening the gravity of what we were about to go and do.
Yeah. Because it is an exceptionally heavy play, and it's going into this final straight now, those of you who are with us and watching, where it becomes unconquerably bleak and difficult to watch and endure, and being probably, along with Erin Murphy, or DSM, who was on at the start, the person who watched it the most, it was never not extraordinarily moving. And we're about to go into the bit of the play where Menenius, who is your great ally, in a different way from Cominius, played by Peter de Jersey, who we just saw, to an extent your father figure, is tormented at the entrance to your treacherous camp. You know, he's mishandled, and he's going to come in and plead with you. Someone's just saying on the comments, Tom smile. He can't smile while he's thinking about it because it's so sad, this scene.
I love the there's a line, and Mark delivered this so beautifully, is you know, Mark's character is so believes that he has the constancy of Marcia's affection, that he might be rude or unreconciled with people he doesn't know as well, but it's Menenius, it's his uncle, it's family, it's his people.
Yeah. And
he is rebuffed with such extreme coldness and such extreme cruelty. And the poetry Menenius has here is some of the most eloquent in the play, which expresses both Menenius' shock and what's happened to the soul of Coriolanus, which is, he says, after this scene, he says, he's changed from man to dragon. When he walks, he moves like an engine, and the ground shakes before his treading. Yeah. And that image was such a great note for me from Shakespeare, which is in
a pre-robotic, in a kind of pre-machine age, in a pre-industrial age. It's an industrial image from Shakespeare, you know.
But they don't have engines, or they don't, you know, that this man has become a machine.
Yeah.
Something without feeling or sentiment, without compassion, without empathy, without any human softness.
Yeah.
At this point, and it's
and he hardens and hardens and hardens, doesn't he, until the conclusion. Yeah. I mean, I'm just looking at Mark's face here, which is a sentiment that's born in its own version by Peter de Jersey when he comes back to relate in an earlier scene that he couldn't persuade you. It's that awful realization that someone you love so much you cannot change, and whatever has occurred between you is irrevocable and can't be fixed. You know, I think it's funny, actually, I was thinking of this moment between you when I saw you in Betrayal, because I think that one of the things that you as a cast embodied so poetically and beautifully in Jamie Lloyd's fantastic production was the idea that something occurred that could not be fixed, and what the consequence of that was.
And people incapable of the correct kind of communication, which would engender forgiveness.
Yeah.
And reconciliation.
Yeah.
You know, what's the breaking point?
Yeah.
This Marcius has wings, says Menenius.
There you go.
He's changed from man to dragon. It's such a powerful image, isn't it? Yeah. That he's somehow corrupted his soul with such an intensity of internal fire. You know?
The brilliant Robert Hastie, who is the associate director on this production, now on Sheffield Theatres, and I actually sat together for a week with the play, and Rob, mainly, me a bit, but mainly Rob, did something which it takes a very skilled cutter of Shakespeare to do. He crafted this scene that you're watching now with Mark. So we had to cut very heavily toward the end of the play because we didn't have enough cast members to do the scale of it, and also wanted to streamline it, I guess, a bit. So there's lots of scenes with Volskis in them that aren't there. But Mark will do what is effectively a soliloquy that's been crafted by Rob and me a bit, to stand for a lot of action that we compressed to this part of the play, and he does it so
amazing,
beautifully.
Yeah, it's amazing.
He's so great. Someone's just said they can't donate from where they are via Instagram. If you want to go onto the National Theatre's website, you can donate there via PayPal if you are international, or there are text numbers you can text to, just to say and answer that question. Tom, I just had a really good question that I thought, just to come off topic slightly, you'd be well placed to answer. Any advice for women directors? And I'm definitely a woman director, but you have worked with many women directors.
Do I have advice for women?
Yeah, someone who's an aspiring female director, but I just thought you've worked with so many women directors, and I suppose, is there something, I'm sure they're all infinitely different, but is there something that draws you particularly toward working with them? Is it about them as individual artists, or do you think there's a different quality or vibe that you get from working with a female director?
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, I would first want to kind of redirect the energy that probably the best advice for women directors is to come from women directors. So I don't want to mansplain my way into this.
No, okay, yeah, no, fair enough.
Yeah, but
well, that's very respectful. But
at the same time, I've been very lucky in my life to work with lots of women, a huge number in film and in theatre, on contemporary work and in classical work. And there's an argument to be made that maybe my most interesting work has been directed by women. I don't know. I would hate to generalize about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm wrong to pull you toward a generalization. That's you're right, Tom. It's just I think
the experiences have been wonderful. I mean, including with you, Joe. So I'll be honest. Like it's I've had
really because while you were off this Instagram live, I was having to do this so I could charge my phone. So like, I'm clearly not that great at directing.
Well, okay. Well, but you solved it though. I watched it in awe and wonder about this repetitive situation. But it was very funny. It was very funny when you were trying to read the comments with Hadley and you were just doing that.
Yeah.
And it was
trying to get Rosalie's come in her pajamas. Yeah.
So by the way, I'll come back. I should respond to Hadley's question, which is that the beard is very soft, just in case everyone was wondering.
Okay, that's good. And I'm just going to repeat.
But I want to detract from your question.
Went down. We can confirm that Hadley's beard is soft.
There you go. But do I have advice for women directors? I suppose my advice. I'm very hesitant to give advice, often because I believe that most people like to find their own way. But to that end, if I had any advice to give, it's to how best to say this, to just be as true to yourself as you can, because there are, and I'd say that to anyone who is an artist, is that the more honest and authentic you can be about your own personal experience of being alive, the more likely the specificity of that experience will connect with somebody else. And so not to try to bend or shift or change or just be honest about what you want to say, and say it as loudly as you can. Tell the story that you want to say. I'm curious, what advice do you have for women directors?
I mean, that I think what you said is the Shakespeare version of that, isn't it? Is to thine own self be true.
Yes.
And I think it's
and it must follow as night the day, thou canst not then be false to any man.
Romping in with another 12 points there for completing the quote. So I think yes, and I think for me anyway, it takes a long time to work out who you are and how you want to articulate that. And sometimes you're doing that through your work. So sometimes a call to authenticity with yourself can actually generate confusion as much as it can clarity.
Yeah.
So it's okay to say you don't know. It's okay to be uncertain. It's okay to be in a rehearsal room and to know that from your authority can come the response, I don't know what we're going to do about that. Let's work it out. And sometimes the expectation that's put on you is to, as a woman, is to deliver and to be efficient and to be perfect and to get things right. And sometimes it's not about getting it right. And I think the older I get, for I am getting older, the other thing I realize is that the work of other women directors and also the work of anybody whose voice may have been excluded from the process of telling stories, on film in particular, in theatre certainly as well, is that every time you do that, you make some space for other people. And that's a powerful thing. So actually, even if you don't feel like your endeavour has ever completely succeeded, because you never do when you do a play or direct a film or anything, you never go, wow, I aced that. You know, you'll always have that voice in your head that goes, it wasn't right. Know that part of what you're doing is making space.
Yeah.
For people. So,
that's great. Yeah.
Say that.
Massive shout out to all the other women directors as well.
That you've worked with. Amazing people.
Joanna Hogg, Thea Sharrock, Susanna Beer, Hetty MacDonald, Aisling Walsh. Hang on.
Who's directing your current thing? Who's that?
Kate Herron. Kate Herron.
Kate Herron. There you go.
Herron directing Loki.
There's that small boy finally getting an opportunity to act, not paint.
Yes.
That's good. Yeah.
I am unfortunately drawing a terrible blank. I know there's more which I feel awful about, but I don't have my...
They don't mind, I'm sure.
Okay.
Okay.
Here we go.
Final straight, yeah.
This is it. This is where he's trying to shore up his reserves of obstinacy.
Yeah.
And actually he can feel it. So Marcius knows he's isolated himself, and he's so stubborn in his refusal to accept any desire for reconciliation from Rome. And he now knows this is his biggest test, which is at the arrival of his wife, his son, and his mother.
Yeah.
And it will be very hard to turn them away. And you can see himself almost kind of, he sort of stores himself up with a kind of coldness, as if to fortify himself against compassion.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a big challenge, because if Coriolanus is a man of honor, how honorable is it to turn your mother away?
Yeah.
And this is, I don't know, there's all the humility which he has lacked for the whole play is starting to rise, I think.
Yeah.
And maybe he's starting to feel the shame and the consequence. I keep coming back to this word consequence, by which I mean, in life, you do something and there is a result of what you do. And Marcius seems to be unaware of the result. He just doesn't think about consequence. What's going to happen if I say this? What's going to happen if I do this? He just does it. And in this scene, he's starting to become aware of the gravity of the consequences of his actions.
Yeah.
Which is why I keep talking about his lack of capacity to self-reflect, which my rather nerdy Shakespearean brain starts to go, in so many of his tragedies, the protagonist is allowed to soliloquize, is allowed to talk to the audience and think things through.
Yeah, Hamlet mainly goes, hang on a minute, can I just have a think about this?
wait. Let's all just wait and think about this for a second. And Hamlet's great source of shame is that he says at one point, "I'm thinking too much. I'm not doing enough."
Yeah.
And he's almost tortured by the doubt of it. Coriolanus has no doubt. He only has certainty.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to try, Tom, just because we are very close to the final straight, aren't we? I'm going to jump out from you and just really quickly see if I can say hi to Sunita, who was the fourth backstage.
Oh, Sunita.
Is that all right? Let me just see if I can do that. But
Sunita,
do that thing where you're ready to come back in. I don't want to miss the end of the play with you.
Okay. So, Sunita is our company manager and responsible for everyone and everything.
Yeah.
And she wears more hats in terms of the job she did than any other person in this company.
Okay, I'm jumping out before Deborah Finley cracks you.
Okay.
Sunita, are you there? Let's give this a go. Where are you? Where are you? Let's hope this works. Sorry, there are so many people trying to jump in. Can't see you, Sunita. No, this is too bad. I can see Alastair Coomer. Can I bring in Alastair Coomer? Just quickly. Waiting for Alastair Coomer. Alastair Coomer, who's having the production. Oh my God.
And I'm not Sunita. That's so funny.
Sunita, I can't find you. I'm so sorry. Use this quick pause when I'm saying hello to Alastair Coomer, who used to be the casting director of the Donmar Warehouse, who cast this production, who cast my first movie, Mary Queen of Scots, and who is now the head of casting at the National Theatre. Wow, you're so impressive.
I know, sorry. Sunita's much more interesting than me.
No, but Alastair Coomer, what do you want to say to actors who are just graduating drama school and who are aspiring during this period of our theatres being locked down? I have not prepared you for this question.
My heart's with you. I mean, it's really hard. The one thing that the whole training's been leading up to has been taken away from you. But myself and a lot of my colleagues are trying as hard as possible to watch what you're doing online as well. And I know a lot of your schools are doing brilliant work around that. But don't be downhearted. It's a long game, and you know, it's going to be a tough couple of years. But I think the industry will really, really rally around you and really know how tough this moment must be. So I think don't be downhearted. Play the long game, and be optimistic. We'll look after you.
Yeah. Alastair, that's so beautiful. I'm going to just end that there because you're not going to top that. I mean, you might, but you know. All right, look. I'll speak to you soon. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Right, Sunita, come on. We can do this. Where are you, Sunita? There you are, there you are. There you are.
Yay!
Denise, how are you doing?
I'm all right. This is like a whole new world. I don't understand what's happening.
Very much to me, as I think everyone's become very aware of as I've tried to pull this shit together.
You're in the right direction, so that's
Sunita, how are you doing? We're nearly there. I'm going to jump back to Tom in a sec, otherwise people will be...
of course. It's nearly the end,
just give me your happiest memory from this show.
I think the company were just like a delightful bunch of people. We had a lovely time. There was a lot of people in a very small space, and everyone found their little space and their people. And I think the half-hour call video is like testament to how, like, all the joy. So just the people and the audiences.
Encouragement for stage managers during this period who are graduating?
Yeah, so we did that video to encourage a bit of diversity in the industry, which we are lacking in. So if anyone has any questions, and as Alastair said, we've just got to be hopeful. I mean, we will get back to work at some point. So there we go.
I know you and Erin are there to talk to people, and you very generously want to encourage as much diversity as you can. So get in touch. All right.
Yes, please.
Tom. Sunita, it's so great to see you. Lots of love. Bye.
Good luck.
Tom, are you there? It's the big bit. Where are you, Tom Hiddleston? Come on. Well, everyone can just watch this quietly while I wait for Tom.
Hi. Hey.
So good, this bit of acting. I sort of want to sit in a bit of respectful silence. With man breaking.
Mother. You have won a happy victory to Rome.
It's quite hard to watch.
That's all.
Quite difficult to weird, very
so
weird, very
it's
weird.
It's also your endeavour, because what does this mean? This means
it's the final reconciliation. It's the final kind of catharsis of this great theme between mother and son. This hard man who's become progressively harder for 3 hours suddenly softens and weeps. And there's this line here, which I always thought was the most extraordinary, subtle bit of direction from Shakespeare, which is, "And sir, it is no little thing to make mine eyes to sweat compassion." So that's sort of Shakespeare saying, you need to be, probably need to cry now. And the idea that this guy we've been talking about, he's changed from man to dragon. He moves like an engine. Where there is no more mercy in him than there is milk in a male tiger. The image of a male tiger does not conjure up an image of softness or vulnerability or open-heartedness or empathy or anything. It just is ferocity and power. And suddenly you have a warrior machine, so moved by the sight of his mother, wife and son's entreaty, that he weeps, and he agrees not to take revenge on the city that banished him. But in that contract, he knows that he has signed his own death warrant.
And they know that too.
And his mother knows it as well. And so this is they all know this is goodbye, that they will never see each other again. And it's quite something to play. It's, I talked early on about kind of coming on and it like starting a very long race, running around the track and just running with a kind of repetitive intensity, that with every revolution of the track, the play gets more and more and more intense, and the tension builds and builds and finally breaks here. And then Shakespeare drives it home with a closing scene. But you've had this warrior described in blood, described in scars, described in kind of, Cominius says he struck Coriolanus like a planet. Aufidius is going to accuse him of being a boy of tears, and going to reduce his whole life to being a boy of tears. And I think that something only Shakespeare could write it, which is the human capitulation to feel something honest and real and vulnerable.
Yeah.
Is the reason he is executed.
Yeah.
So it's almost like at the moment of his growth, which is to learn how to be vulnerable, to weep, to open his heart, is the moment he makes himself. He's like the idea of a character being executed for his vulnerability. It's pure tragedy. It's reversal, recognition, catharsis, or whatever the structure of tragedy is supposed to be.
Although I don't think it's an argument. It's not a warning against vulnerability, is it?
No, it's actually I think a championing of vulnerability. It's what makes it so sad.
Yeah. And what's coming up?
If he had softened earlier, he may not have suffered the same fate.
Yeah.
But he was so proud for so long that to withdraw now is to seal his death warrant. And what's extraordinary?
Also, I mean, sorry.
No.
You know, talking before about women directors, and because I am not a man, I think one of the ways in which I was able to look at this play is about the demands that some societies make on men.
Mm.
You know, and how much they require of them when they ask them, and of course the world has changed now, we ask this of women as well, but when they ask them to fight and to be hard and to be cruel, and to be invulnerable and to suppress their feelings for the sense of something that they're meant to be, that is unattainable without the potential of the horrible sacrifice and genocide, actually, that Coriolanus calls on when he goes over to Ophidius. Wow, this is heavy. Sorry, people. So there's this awful death. Let's talk about this practically so people aren't worried about you. When I was looking through my photos in my iPhone of this period, I saw one where we did this test of what's about to happen to you, where you are suspended upside down. And it has our producer, Kate Pakenham, and general manager, Joe, with their faces doing this as they look at the test in the stalls of the Donmar.
Mm.
I mean,
it was a funny one. We were all worried about it, weren't we? We were all worried about how long can you suspend a human being upside down by his ankles?
And we're about to find out.
It was such a weird sensation every night. It was almost like, inside myself, of course, I was, aware of the power of the scene and everything, but inside myself, it was almost a relief. It was almost a relief for it that the story is over.
You didn't have to do another big emotional beat.
That whatever was required from me internally to give this amazing story shape and meaning, it's over. The rest is silence, or whatever it is. And just hanging upside down, minding my own business is wasn't too bad. It was okay.
I mean, my video's buffering again, so I don't know where we are, but it's
I'm hanging upside down now
as well. So this body, to go back to the idea of the wounds and the shower and all this body that this city is obsessed with, that Ophidius is obsessed with, in the end is treated like this piece of meat by being suspended upside down. And you sort of really, this is grim, okay, but you really felt the warehouse at that moment as well, I think, in a sort of powerful, awful way.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, mine's come back live and you are twizzling. I think I'm practicing the twizzle or not, so you weren't too spinny.
Technical term. Yeah.
Well, there's like at a certain speed that would be funny, wouldn't it? So.
No, yeah, you wouldn't want to be like, it wouldn't want to be too much. Yeah. No. It would be silly.
Yeah.
Yes. And amazing kind of synergy of cast and company. Because I actually was wearing a very complicated harness underneath my costume. So that when Dwayne comes over he clips me in. And actually the weight, I'm being pulled up by my hips, not by my ankles.
Yeah. I
think if I had been pulled up by my ankles, I may have damaged them significantly.
Yeah.
And having everybody, Dave in the,
I'm just going to say, it's ended, so there is lots of applause going on. I'm following the YouTube comments and I'm following your comments and people are applauding. And I'm just going to take my own applause for all of the actors. There we go. We'll get a curtain call.
My applause to you. And my applause to everybody who made this possible, everybody behind the scenes, the crew, the house managers, people front of house at the Donmar, the producers. It was lovely to see Al. and literally everyone who made this possible, and Sunita and Erin and
Sally,
Matt,
who
Dave and Sally and Kate and Rob, and so thank you to all of you, and thank you to the audience. Thank you to anyone who came to see it when we did it 6 years ago, and thank you for tuning in to listen to us have a little chat about it today.
And just follow my adventures in tech. So just a little grace note for this: if you've enjoyed this curtain call, please bear in mind that some of the relief you can see on the actors' faces is because they've just done a live broadcast into cinemas, not just a play. And I think you do kind of feel preserved, don't you, in a weird way? It's not like movies, you don't get another take, but it doesn't go right. Yeah. So that collective act of concentration is absolutely massive.
Worth saying, very good point. Like having done lots of different kinds of, acted in different kinds of things. Acting for film, acting for television, acting on stage, acting for radio, acting whatever. This is like doing one of these is a completely unique experience, because it doesn't feel like acting for the theatre, really.
No, it's a different thing.
You know that the largest audience is actually not in the room.
Yeah.
And it also doesn't feel like acting for camera in any conventional way, like making a film or a television series, because it's live. It's one big take for the actors. It's completely unique. We were all like.
And look, there's a last shot of the Donmar Warehouse that, like so many of our theatres, currently has their doors closed. So that for me is a very, very poignant thing, because I've worked on and off at that theatre since I was 23 when I trained there. So
amazing. It's
a very strange thing to think of it not open. I'm sure a lot of people feel that, because if you're on here, you're probably a theatre fan or care about theatre, or maybe this is something that will persuade you to go and see a bit more of it when it's back. But your support is so important, and I don't mean donations. I mean you're being here and watching this and being with us. It's really moving, actually. It's a moving play, and people's performances are amazing, and it's so great to have this little reunion. But what's really moving to me is just to feel like we've been together with an audience through this. It's not a thing, but it's a bit closer, isn't it?
Yeah. And we'll all be back. We will be back one day, whenever that day comes. We have to believe this strange moment is temporary. And, talking of the ancient classical cultures, the Greeks and the Romans, people sort of think of the contemporary sense of theatre was invented in 2,500 years ago, and theatre isn't going anywhere. I think we'll be back. We'll be back with streamers and balloons and celebrations.
Yep, we will. Tom, do you want to do, just for these brilliant people who've watched, I will quickly bash through a couple of questions just to see if there's anything.
Yes.
Is that all right? Should we do that? Just to say.
Yeah. Do we have to do, we don't have to do anything else?
No, we do. Yeah, but in a little bit. Okay. Yeah, there's just one. I want you to do two questions for me. How do you overcome your nerves on stage?
You never do. You just get used to kind of, you just get used to them. You just go, oh, there you are. Hello, nerves. You're coming with me because we've got no choice, and you might be useful. The truth is, I think maybe somebody brilliant, like Judi Dench told me once, you never stop getting nervous, and you need them. You need to know that it's a special moment, that it's part of the ritual of something, of walking onto a stage in front of a group of strangers to tell a story is an amazing thing, and it's not usual. It's not. It should be something that makes you a bit nervous, because it's a very special thing, and so I don't ever really kind of make peace with my nerves. I do always have them. I know it sounds strange, people probably think I don't, but I've been doing this for a very long time. Amazing. But if you're nervous, it means you care about it, and if you care about it, it means you stand a chance of communicating something. Yeah. So there you go.
That's very good. I'm going to take one question, which is just admiring my hair. Yes, I cut it myself, but it is a mullet at the back. So thank you. And let me see.
Josie, you don't win in the mullet competition, I'm afraid.
No, I know. So yeah. Fave memory of the play. My favourite memory of the play, if I am really honest, is Tom, you saying that you would do it with me. I was never more excited than in that moment and really felt the chance. So there you go. Yeah. That's my answer. Okay, so we are going to say thank you and sign off, I think. This has been an experience. Thank you for your patience and your kindness. Thank you for your excellent questions and for sticking with it. Coriolanus is on YouTube for the next 7 days. It will be followed by the amazing Mark Gatiss, who played Menenius, giving his Madness of King George from the Nottingham Playhouse. So you should definitely check that out. It's a good leverness and the intensity of this, and Mark giving another extraordinary performance. Do watch again Coriolanus if you want to without us in your ear. I will save these videos to my Instagram so you can watch them or just like pick up any tech tips from them, because that went really smoothly. And sending loads and loads.
Josie, you're brilliant. You're brilliant. Not only are you a virtuoso theatre and film director, but you are also a immaculate hoster of Instagram Live.
Well, I am missing hosting, I have to say. It's strange not to have parties. I like a party. We'll have lots of parties when this crazy is over. Thank you to everyone who helped with the production. Thank you, Tom Hiddleston. Thank you to everyone who donated. Thank you to everyone who watched. Please keep supporting the National Theatre. Please keep supporting the Donmar Warehouse Theatre in general. And that's it.
Thank you to Donmar. Thank you to the National. Thank you, Coriolanus Company. Thank you to the audience, always. We couldn't do what we do without you. So thank you for that. From the bottom of all of our hearts, you are what make the theatre what it is.
Namaste. All right.
Okay.
Take care.
Take care, everybody. Look after yourselves.
Yeah.
Okay.
All of that. We'll be back one day with different hair. Okay. Bye.
Bye. Bye.